Okay.
But we are safe because the chief has a
pot belly.
There's several songs by there that talk about the pot belly.
Are there?
Yes.
Such as?
There's a reggae song. The woman with the big belly. The woman with the big belly. John, what song is that? I'm sure the guys of Vibes can tell us. Rando right there can tell us what song that is. And then there's another one by a South African lady that talks about her belly.
Should we be a bit worried that you know all these songs talking about women with bellies?
I don't know very many songs. I have an eclectic taste of music.
I don't think it's anything to be worried
Pardonnez-moi,
about.
monsieur.
He isn't inventing anything, and neither is he talking about a body part that doesn't already exist.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, this Western disaffection for not talking about certain parts of the body is something that we must resist.
Yes. Fight back.
Yes.
Imperialism.
Yes, we African men,
You like it like that?
actually, we like our people with some body.
But
It's important.
somebody.
Some body, substance you can actually see.
And touch.
Well, see, because
Hold.
some claim that it's substance that you keep looking for.
Hold is
But
the
this
word I was
one,
looking
you can see.
You can see.
Yes.
Something to hold on to.
It's an African thing, so
Shall I keep going?
you've actually gone.
I told you it's cold. You hear me?
Okay, now, welcome to the show, everybody. We are glad that you have joined us. Happy Friday. Today we'll have a number of conversations. Number one, this nonsense that was taking place in the by-elections yesterday. Hey, Kabuchai, Matungu, London Ward, and Kamokama Ward in Kisii. My good Lord.
The water that people were drinking yesterday was the potent stuff.
Very, very many things to talk about. I think, I don't even know why they're still counting. I do not understand how Matiang'i is reporting to the office today, just kawaida. I don't understand how Chebukati is reporting to the office today, just kawaida. Or the leaders of the major political parties that were at play yesterday. ANC, Ford Kenya, ODM, Jubilee, UDA. Those political party leaders and all those guys, they're just reporting to work. And in fact, IEBC is waiting to announce the results.
Yeah, behaving like nothing has happened.
There was no election that took place. Anyway, we'll have that conversation later on in the show today. We'll also be taking a look at what needs to happen. When you talk about, all these things that we've been talking about, every day in the paper, there's something, that shows some degree of violence that's increasing. So what's happening in our society? What's happening in the country? And what options are there? What help is available to people? And how can you do that? We'll be speaking to a clinical psychologist this morning on the state of mental health in the country and what options we all have. And then we'll also talk about finance and what we need to know about finance, how we can manage finance, how we can understand matters of finance, investment options for Kenyans, how to diversify investment to avoid loss. Basically, we'll have an expert here who, all those things they keep telling us, don't put all your eggs in one basket. He'll come with the baskets. And he'll be here. He's actually already around. He'll be telling us what the baskets are and how to decide what to put in what basket. So keep it right here for those conversations. In the meantime, today is Friday.
It's that
Patient
day.
number one. Not patient. What do we call that?
Candidate number one.
Candidate number one for vaccination.
It would appear that the president might be the first one to get a vaccine. But as he was flagging off the vaccines yesterday in Kitengela, it was interesting because he was asked the question, will you lead by example and take the first jab? And he said, you see now, this is the problem. If I take the first jab, I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't. If I take the first jab, I'll be told that I am operating from a point of privilege and I'm putting myself out there first as opposed to giving Kenyans the opportunity. If I don't, I'll be told that I'm not leading by example as to what the general population of the country should do. So he said, okay, you know what? Let them tell us. Let the experts tell us.
Let the bosses say.
Let them tell us who's going to get this first, and then I will follow as per their instructions. So we don't know what is going to happen today.
I like that.
But the inaugural...
I like what he's saying. You know
Yeah.
what he's saying?
Yeah.
It's not my decision.
Right.
There's a team that's in charge of this, and the team shall decide how this
How
is
we're
rolled
gonna go
out.
about
This
this.
is, it's, if you actually think about it, what the president is doing here is saying, I have put a team in charge. I am not going to now start coming to tell them how they should do their job.
No.
The problem.
Are we saying that he has learned something from the days when he was telling the courts what they should do or not do?
Well, you learn one thing and then you unlearn it in a different situation. But yeah.
Or you play catch up with the next one.
Great. This is maybe
But
one
the
of
key
those catch-up
thing here
situations.
is that this is a good thing.
It's a good thing. So wait and see what happens today. The inaugural vaccination will take place at the Kenyatta National Hospital today, which is where the first batch of vaccines were going to from Kitengela yesterday. So the assumption or the belief is that they are now at the Kenyatta National Hospital, and then we'll be told in the course of the day who's getting the shots, when, where, how, what. Okay? So we'll find out that information later today. Everybody, I think, waiting with bated breath. And still, the calls continue to be from the Ministry of Health, especially CS Kagwe himself. He said yesterday as well, encouraging people to come out and take this vaccine. And, say, please, it's important that you do. At the same time, the message still remains clear. Wear your mask, maintain social distance, sanitize, wash your hands as much as you can, because yes, we do have the vaccine, but it doesn't guarantee 100% that you won't get infected or that we can't continue spreading it. Okay, so that's what's coming out of there. A few more deaths registered in Kenya yesterday due to COVID-19, and a few more cases have been counted. If we just look quickly at what's happening in the country, 107,000 cases, 107,329 is what has been reported so far, and inching closer and closer to 2,000 deaths countrywide. 1,870 deaths been recorded in the country. So even as the vaccines have come in and such, 528 new cases were found yesterday in the country, and 4 new deaths. This is double the number that was found on Monday, that was reported on Monday, double the number. So the hope is that, actually triple the number that was found on Monday. The hope is that people will be a little bit more careful. But we're finding more and more cases, and the prevalence rate is rising slowly.
Okay.
We're now at 10%.
So what the experts told us, according to their models, is that this was going to happen around this time.
Absolutely.
And that this is basically the effect of the Christmas festivities and the reopening of schools. Okay.
The numbers, however, are lower than what was projected, because they were talking about probably going into the thousands of cases.
By mid-March, though.
Yes.
It's towards the end of March.
Yeah, so still early. But, this is what they said would likely happen.
Okay.
From all indications, that's what is happening.
Okay. I'd like to understand the algorithm, though.
That they use for this.
Yeah. It's interesting.
And it just comes out just as they say. So,
because people would have thought, hey, December, by end of Jan, you'll have the numbers. And they're like, nah, give it until March. They're thinking, why 3 months?
And here we are.
Yeah.
Because, I guess you're giving people time to get back and settled into another kind of routine. Just from what I was reading, an article that was written by Professor Omonzala. And he said, what happens with viruses like this is that people are moving about.
Yeah.
And then the time that they take to get nestled back into a routine is about 45 days.
Okay.
So but by the time that 45 days has elapsed, then if they're doing something on a regular basis and this virus then is resident in their area, then you'll find that, okay, back into the routine, the virus also takes
that routine
that
now.
routine.
So it
And that's
spreads
how
within
you start
their
to
clusters.
see the infections rising. Because up and about,
So
according
45 days for you to settle into your routine, and then now you
because
start
it's a new
spreading.
routine, right?
Yeah.
So you've traveled, whatever, you've come back. Then now it says, okay, because it looks for a host, right? I didn't get all the science of it, but this is basically what he said. Getting back into the routine, and then it gives it time now to.
Until the virus doesn't spread itself.
No.
It requires a
It
host.
requires a host, absolutely. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Other numbers?
All right, so let's look at other numbers around the world. We are looking at, again, so if we're using the same science, then what the head of the CDC, Dr. Rochelle, said with the United States, then I think the American population has to be extremely careful about what's going on here. We heard Dr. Fauci say yesterday again that he was basically begging the state governments of Texas and California, please repeal this latest opening of measures, releasing of measures rather, and then releasing of people wearing masks. Please reconsider this position that you have taken because it is a very dangerous one, and we're likely to see the fourth wave come out in the next 1 month or so in the US, and it's likely to be more devastating, especially because of the fact that the second variant with more contagious strains of COVID-19 is already in the United States. And with that now you're saying, okay, masks off, dine in, cinemas opened, everybody come out and let's have a party. Come on, yeah. And it's likely to have very dangerous consequences if they're going about in the way in which they are. But again, this is a wait-see. So people are being begged to please be very, very careful.
Okay.
So just looking at news around the world, for COVID-19, there's a lot now saying that they're more in terms of development whereby you don't need a second dose. And I think we also heard CS Kagwe talk about that yesterday, that they're actually looking at those who are producing right now the vaccines whereby you don't need a booster shot, that you can get one dose and you will be fine. And so there are many countries around the world who are also interested in this. We've seen talks of this coming out of Switzerland, the UK, and saying, okay, it would be good to get the development fast-tracked so that you can get something akin to the flu jab, which you get once and you're done. So it's happening. The discussion is taking place. And so we continue to see what happens with this.
Okay. Keep it right here because we'll be looking at more headlines in the coming hours. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. The live stream is up, SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Where are you? Are you already tuned in? Let's know where you are. We'll be getting in touch with you shortly. No, we'll be saying hello to you shortly. Okay, it's coming up to 6:15. Let's look at the weather shortly and then look at the headlines.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your
The
life.
realest and craziest couple are now on your screens. Terrence and Chebi are bringing you top celebrities and trendsetters on Thursday Night Live. It's double the fun and double the laughter every Thursday at 10 p.m. on KTN Home.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Japan biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan? Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da! Japan? Yes! You will have to first learn Japanese. No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable. Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
All right, let's look at what the
weather
skies have in store this Friday morning. We're looking at clear conditions in Nairobi. Still a bit dark, and when the sun comes up, we'll see highs of 27 and lows of 16. The weather beckoning looks like rain for the weekend. Into Nyeri, it's mostly cloudy at 14, highs of 25 today. 27 will be the high recorded in Nakuru. It's partly cloudy now at 15. 15 is also the lucky number in Eldoret. It's clear, highs of 25 and lows of 14 today. Clear conditions in Kisumu at 21, highs of 30. Kakamega is clear at 17. We'll see highs of 31 today. It's also going to get quite warm in Mombasa, 33 the high. Clear currently at 25. It's a bit warmer in Malindi at 27. Clear skies, however, going to highs of 31. Kampala, it's raining this morning, lightly. It's likely to get heavier. Going to highs of 27 and lows of 20. Dar es Salaam record partly cloudy conditions for now, 27 at the moment, highs of 32. It's going to be 26 as the high in Johannesburg. It's clear right now at 15. Partly cloudy conditions in Lagos this morning at 28, going to highs of 33. Also a chance of rain here. In Kinshasa, no wait, it's already raining at 25, going to highs of 32 and lows of 24. It's warmer in Beijing today. It's hazy, however, at 11. It's going to drop back down to -2. And then it'll go to a high of only 7. 7 degrees is also the high that will be recorded in Paris today. It's cloudy at 5, coming down to a low of 0. 4 degrees is what was reading in London. Cloudy conditions, highs of 7 and lows of 1. And in New York Thursday night, it's -1. We'll see highs of 6 going into Friday and lows of -4.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
18 minutes
94.4
after 6.
Spice
Happy
FM.
Friday, wherever you are. Who's online?
Everybody, Alex Kiptoy says good morning. He's tuned in once again from Moisbridge, Uasin-Gishu County. And Vincent says, good morning, happy Friday, my good people. Eric, the song Silly Woman was done by Gregory Isaacs.
There you go.
Voila. Nawasikiza Ijumaa hii nikiwa mbioni kwenye barabara ya Jogger kuingia jijini. You got whiplash.
Umeelewa?
He says he's listening this Friday as he is on Jogger Road, right? Getting into the city. I don't know what Mbioni is, but I think I got the gist of it, right? Okay. Edwin Washira says, good morning, he's tuned in, and he says, today's business proverb, CT. He who thinks of money in others' pockets remains poor. Okay. Dagya Gu says, tuned in this morning. He says, good morning, my good people. Happy Friday into Eric and Dr. Muga. I'm here with you now, already tuned in from Nyabola. Monday Ben, he says he's tuned in from Mombasa, and he says he's not happy. Yesterday, it was a link of how 2022 will be. Please, I don't know what we shall do. If small seats like the MP and MCA is a problem, what about the presidency? Wakenya, can we stop being fooled? Sisi sio wajinga, as King Kaka said.
Very
Wajinga
good.
nyinyi.
Wajinga nyinyi.
Those who are ready to shed blood due to their desire. Waterman Jeffrey says, good morning, guys. He's tuned in from Hennepin County in Minnesota. Good morning, everyone. And that's Robert Mbogo tuned in from Mombasa. Master Dan is in Beijing, and he says what he saw yesterday was entirely embarrassing.
Completely.
Rogers Lai is also tuned in from Mombasa, and he says he did not know that CT Muga used to play rugby in school.
There are many things you don't know that City Muga used to do.
Okay. Yeah.
He used to attend school.
You did not know that he did that.
Yes,
Wow.
that's one. I also don't have false teeth.
You know what they say about folks with false teeth?
I have absolutely no idea.
What do they say about false
Don't worry.
That they have false teeth.
Yeah, they have false teeth. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning and welcome, City. So what is today's proverb?
Right. The one nearest to the enemy is the leader.
Okay. I was thinking, why not just put it the other way around?
The one farthest from the enemy.
No, the one nearest to the leader is the enemy.
That could also work.
The one nearest to the enemy is the leader. See, I'm thinking the other way around.
I see, I get it, man.
Just thinking Judas. The one nearest to the leader. Okay, so this is from...
This week, I favor Uganda.
No? I was looking for myself.
there she was about to say, yeah.
She had her turn yesterday.
Only yesterday.
So it's Uganda.
Uganda.
And this is Ugandan proverb.
Okay.
Okay. Those ones with the heels and the leaders who speak like heels. Let's look at the headlines.
Hi. Gosh. Okay, so we can't ignore it, can we? Chaos, arrests, and bribery in mini polls. And on the front page of the Standard, I mean, what are we looking at? People kicking in a cloud of smoke, shameful scenes, violence, tear gas, and running battles, hotly contested Matungu and Kabuchai parliamentary and 5 civic by-elections. Can you imagine everything? Every election that was happening yesterday had drama. And in what is seen as a dress rehearsal for the 2022 succession polls. It's terrible, from bribery to tear gas and insults and arrests. And so, with this nice picture of Langata MP Nixon Career as he kicks a tear gas canister during fracas at Milimani Primary School in London Ward, Nakuru, an IEBC official is pulled away when youth led by Senator Cleopas Malala stormed Muanami Primary School. So there was a lot of, we saw all the videos happening and pictures coming out of what was going on. But all over the place, there was drama.
Yeah.
6 MPs arrested as chaos mars crucial by-elections. They were amongst the people arrested as violence over claims of rigging punctuated Matungu and Kabuchai parliamentary by-elections yesterday. At some point, there were gunshots as police tried to contain chaos that erupted in both constituencies, with claims of voter bribery and plans to influence the outcome of the elections making rounds. 5 MPs allied to Deputy President William Ruto, and ODM leader Raila Odinga were arrested. They were accused of voter bribery. Problems with the biometric voter identification kits did not help, as this delayed voting in some polling stations. MPs Didmas Baraza of Kimilili, Wilson Logo of Chesume, Nelson Koech of Belgut, and Samuel Atandi Alego Usonga, and Charles Were of Kapsiko
Kasipul.
Yeah, that one. As well as Nandi Senator Samson Cheragai were arrested in separate incidents in Kabuchai and Matungu. All Jubilee MPs allied to the Tanga were arrested around noon at Musese in Kabuchai, while Were and Atandi were arrested at a polling station in Matungu. Barasa, Logo, Koech, and Chergay were taken to Bungoma County Police Headquarters, where they were still being held last evening. They were in 2 constituencies to monitor the by-elections, but obviously they got involved in all the chaos that took place. Baraza claimed that these arrests were politically instigated.
Shut up.
I know.
So, look, that violence, and you can see the photos and all, is very clear. It is politicians, political leaders, who are having a go at one another, having a go at security officers, having a go at IEBC officials. It's very clear. We have talked about this. It's the bad manners of our politicians that's a problem with this country. It has nothing to do with, putting more money into counties, increasing constituencies. It is the attitude of our leaders, the attitude with which we approach some of these things. How can you just see a political leader who is a former cabinet minister actually getting to a point where they appear, because now for legal terms you have to use something, appear to be slapping an IEBC official? How can we see instances where clearly political underlings of these politicians going and demanding that IEBC officials leave a polling center?
Some even frog march.
They frog marched a woman.
Yes.
They mishandled that woman.
Yes.
They sexually molested that woman, both physically and verbally. The words that they used are complete and direct sexual assault on a woman. And she is not just somebody who was walking. She is the official in charge of an election.
Yes. She's just going about her business.
Yes. The moment the referee is touched, that game is over.
It's over.
That is it. Why do we have even to think about waiting for the results? Results of
Why
what?
are they still counting?
Results of what, my friend?
Confucius, the great Chinese philosopher of days gone by, is credited with a certain saying. And that to me is going to be my mantra for the whole day. That progress begins by calling a thing by its proper name. This wasn't chaos. This is violence. Politically instigated violence born out of impunity.
Yep.
If you look at the clips, if these politicians think they are gods, they can talk to people the way they like, behave the way they want, be irresponsible, all these goons that we talk about, goons don't function on their own.
Nope.
It's a growth industry. Those people have to be paid for them to be goons. The things that they do, they have to receive direction.
Yep.
And who gives this direction? Politicians.
Politicians. By the time you're seeing such a huge number of political leaders deployed to these areas, it also means that the political leaders of the political parties are involved.
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
When you see people going to campaign for a UDA candidate, the leader of UDA, the one who is officially the leader of UDA and the one who is still unofficially the leader of UDA are involved. The leader of ANC is involved. When you see an ANC senator going and saying, police have stolen my 2 million shillings, directly saying, basically, I'm here breaking the law.
Exactly. Because then you're going to ask other questions. What were you doing?
What were you doing with 2 million shillings?
At an election, at a polling center? What were you doing with
That
2 million
tells
shillings
you
in
that the
first place?
leader of this party is involved. The leader of Ford Kenya is involved. The leader of ODM is involved, both directly and indirectly. What should have happened yesterday, at some point, we should have seen this county security, the security organs, first of all, taking charge and saying, from the county commissioner to the police bosses, taking charge and saying, we are seeing this happening. We want to take a step back. Let's call a meeting. Let's call IEBC, the regional IEBC officials. What needs to happen? Let's call the leaders of the political parties, the chief agents. You guys come together. Let's have a conversation. This stops or the entire exercise is then cancelled. None of that happened. Police officers are just sitting there as things happen. A chief is throwing words back and forth with Langata MP, with Kipchumba Murkomen, and you can wonder, what
is going on
is
here?
happening?
More importantly, these political leaders should have condemned this violence. They should have come out and said, you know something, we can't have this in our elections.
Yes.
This is a by-election, for heaven's sake. And literally every one of these was marked by violence.
This is what I'm saying. There were 6 elections that were taking place yesterday. And every one of them had an issue. Some of them more serious than others, definitely. However, it is indicative of the serious issues that we are seeing here, guys. And it is not just about what happened yesterday, but it's also an omen. Look, it's an omen of what's to come. Because you can't tell me these bad manners that you're talking about are going to be dropped because all of this now is in the public eye.
You know what I couldn't believe was that the only civil conversation I seemed to hear from all the clips that I encountered were from police individuals trying to calm down the situation. All these political types were shouting at the top of their voice, and I was wondering, goodness gracious me.
Some very barbaric behavior.
Does
I don't understand.
this conversation cannot be had if people are simply talking in normal voices? Finger pointing, chest thumping,
Raising your hands.
yes,
Raising
Stripping
your hands.
people.
Stripping
Yes.
people.
A man was actually completely stripped.
he was,
Yes.
and trousers left on the ground.
Yes.
Fortunately, he was wearing underwear.
Thank goodness for that. Women who are actually in charge of managing elections.
In a very, very, very dangerous position.
We don't have to wait for this thing to go to court. You go to court, the courts will definitely just look at it and say there was no free, fair, and credible election that took place here. Why do we have to go through that?
You know,
Just call it
if
right now.
Chebukati can't do his job, he should say so. Cancel this thing.
Honestly, you know, at some point, it would have been that he, even at the helm of the IEBC, should have come out
Yes.
and said, stop this now. And I'm not saying stop the violence, stop the process.
Stop the process now.
Now.
His people's
Stop it.
lives were in danger. Yes,
Yeah,
stop it.
For that alone.
Stop.
For that
No
alone.
election.
Stop
Done.
it.
Stop it.
Yeah. I mean,
He has the law to back him for that. He has the law. He could have said, for this, stop. Or even say, halt for 2 hours.
my people are in danger, first of all, before we even get to the other things that were going on.
We'll be having this conversation later on in the show. And basically, the call this morning is IBC, just stop joking. Just cancel that bloody election. The government, Matiang'i, and Matiang'i needs to come out and say what his officers were doing on the ground. It's 6:30. Let's take a break. Tengesa kidole, agano kidole. Thank you.
the political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources, yet we have real challenges in this country?
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Japan, biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan?
Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da!
Japan?
Yes!
You will have to first learn Japanese.
No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable.
Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
Okay, so quite a lot. Thika Road this morning, traffic has started all the way from Githurai. There's an accident at Car Wash just after Githurai, so use the service lane, guys, because traffic starts as far back as that, and it's piling on very slowly. The Githurai overpass, the question is what's happening in Oisambu because of this accident. That is what is affecting traffic there. All right, traffic disruption at Jogger Road this morning, and we're hearing from Kura this morning that you should approach that section with care, because they are working on that part of the road. And that's from this morning. How about they would have told us earlier, but okay. Before that, the contractor is installing a culvert at around Jogger Road roundabout. That's at St. Stephen's Church. So if you're headed in that direction, you're not going to be able to use that, and you need to divert. And hopefully this will be done by the end of the day. Mombasa Road coming out from the SGR, very slow this morning. Folks on Thika Road are already crying. Hopefully we can dry your tears before too long. So the trouble spots this morning that we're already seeing as Mombasa Road, Thika Road coming into the CBD. Let's give you more details as we get more, all right? But be careful as you're getting onto those roads this morning. Talk to us if you need to on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
I am looking at page 13 of the Star. Mitumba not a threat to local textile industry. IEA report. Okay? What they're saying is at least 91.5% of households spend less than 1,000 shillings on second-hand clothes. Why have I looked at this? For the longest time, we've had a back and forth with second-hand clothing in this country, it being banned, it being restricted, and the consistent narrative was that they interfere with the production of new garments in the country. They interfere with it. But unfortunately, for those who had that particular view, this is turning out not to be true. And this is according to the Institute of Economic Affairs, East Africa. And they're saying that this is really not so. In fact, what they're saying in their finding is that what needs to be done is it needs, one, legislation that encourages it, and then regulation, because there already is an association of people who deal in second-hand clothes, so that this can encourage what already exists. One, providing an avenue for taxes for the government, but also providing employment.
What I'm not understanding is if 98% of rural households spend money buying second-hand clothes every month, how is that not a threat to local textile?
I didn't say 98%.
Is that what?
I said 91% of households spend generally throughout the country.
91%
yes.
spend at least 1,000 shillings
at least
every month
yes.
on second-hand clothes.
Yes. And they also found that 74.5% spent money on new shoes and clothes.
Right.
Yes. And when they looked at the expenditure, the total expenditure of the new clothes surpassed. In numbers, you may consider that many people spent money on mitumbas, but the amount of money they spent was less compared to the money that was spent on new clothing. This is what I'm saying.
Okay.
This is what they're finding,
All
not
right.
my views.
Are the new clothes local or imported?
It's a combination. Some of the new clothes are local. A good portion of it is also imported.
Okay.
Yes. You see, in my mind, as I read this, the thing that came to the fore is whether there is enough legislation or regulation, maybe there is, to support and protect local manufacturing units so that they can become competitive.
Yeah.
Instead of banning it, simply make whatever is produced locally competitive.
Support local.
Yes. We did this with the sugar industry for the longest time. Despite whatever reliefs and requirements of the Commerce Agreement, the Kenya sugar industry was still constantly protected. Now, unfortunately, that protection was abused, but it is what governments should do if they want to encourage local industry.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when you're talking about now reviving things like Rivertex and thinking of supporting local garment manufacturers like Betty Textiles and such,
yes,
then you also need to see how do you make it easy for them to operate.
You start by encouraging the growth of the raw materials that you require for this industry, because that in itself, okay, and you support it fully.
Yeah.
Then that is from the base. Then from the second level, the production of the material before you even get to the production of the garments.
Right.
Because this, if you look at that chain of events, it will lead to the very thing that we're talking about. There'll be employment at all stages of that particular sector.
Yeah.
And again, it will be an income earner for the government. Yes. Now, this isn't something that is new. I'm simply saying, just like we're reviving the railway, revive this particular aspect of our industry that existed.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the government has already commenced that. That's why the president wears Rivertex garments every so often, especially Friday, right? Yeah. So I'm looking at page 8 of the Nairobian today. The Nairobian is this weekly publication by The Standard. So on page 8, it has court news. So I'm going to sample some of the stories that are here, okay? Number one story is that police are holding a man and they've taken him to the Makadara Law Courts and they've been allowed to hold him for further 14 days because this man is accused of killing his twin brother in a love triangle. So this is what the story says. According to sworn affidavit tabled in court, the suspect, Hussein Chemwar Maina, and his twin brother lived in adjacent rooms in Soweto. However, on the night of the 24th of February, the suspect went to the deceased's room where the two got into a nasty argument over a woman said to have been having an affair with the deceased. The quarrel is said to have ended tragically, with Chemwar stabbing his twin brother in the right chest and neck, making him lose a lot of blood, and that's how he died. So police are saying the man was rushed to hospital, but he passed on, and they're saying now we'd like to have more information, more time, so that we can record statements from others. Tragic. Man kills twin brother. And they are so, you can imagine they're so close that they actually even lived next to one another.
Yeah.
But it led to that. Okay. Another story here. Woman is seeking leniency for assaulting the husband over rent. A woman is accused of assaulting her husband over unpaid rent, but she'll have to wait longer to know the length of her sentence because she pleaded guilty to the charge. Scholastica Akinyi was charged with assaulting Salim Obulo by hitting him on the face on the 22nd of February, causing him serious injuries. What he said here is that she used a glass bottle. They were having an altercation. She picked a glass bottle, hit him on the face. In her defense, she claims that the man was also disrespecting her by bringing another woman into the house. So on this particular fateful morning, she had just gotten out of the house at around 4 a.m. to go to work. She left the man at home. At 4 a.m., she went out and she felt, it's unsafe, it's too early. So she walked back home. Getting back to the house, she finds the man with another woman in the house. Another story, now that you marinate over that. A man has been jailed for 3 years for stealing underwear. So this is what happened. There's a place called NYS, near NYS headquarters. There's where the NYS officers live. So in those NYS quarters, this man was spotted by a security guard breaking into a house of an NYS officer who was inside the house. And then he had gone ahead to start stealing. He stole a speaker, a subwoofer, a claw hammer, and underwear. He was caught. He was taken to court. He has been jailed for 3 years. It's not the first offense. He was presented before Makadara Chief Magistrate Heston Nyaga, where a prosecution witness revealed that he had been jailed 5 years ago for a similar offense. However, he told the court that he had been charged with bank trafficking. The court noted that the accused is among those who have been tormenting city residents and had not reformed even after serving a jail term. So 3 fresh years for breaking and entering and stealing underwear.
No, Eric, surely he has been charged with robbery.
Yeah.
Underwear is detail.
It's one of the things that
because surely I would have assumed, well, it catches your attention. You wonder
items that
were stolen.
Speaker.
Because
look,
a woofer.
He stole a speaker, a hammer, and the items of clothing, underwear.
Why didn't we focus on the woofer and the hammer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Man jailed for 3 years for stealing a hammer and a woofer.
Right, but you would think from this story that he's
because you can see how he'd find a woofer there, he'd steal it. He'd find a hammer on the table, he'd steal it. Then
did he go into the drawer and steal the underwear? Were they hanging on the line somewhere? I mean, this is the question. But you want to make it look as if he's got a fetish. He's got a fetish, and that is what he's being. Okay, so the story.
Took what he found. Another story, final one here. A man has been spared attempted murder charge because his wife, the one he was being accused of attempting to murder, has forgiven him.
So clearly okay.
Alfred Nyakwaka had been arraigned for stabbing Jane Mudeo at her residential house in Pipeline Estate on the 28th of January with the intention to kill. The two, who formerly lived as husband and wife, separated, but the accused, who was yet to get over it, went to Mudeo's house at night and found her sleeping, locked the house from inside, and stabbed her in the head, shoulders, and hands. She screamed. Neighbors came. They could not enter the house. Why? Because obviously he had locked from the inside. He was taken to court. The woman came and said, I forgive him. Now, because of that, the magistrate was like, okay.
I can't. If the complainant
case ends. There's no complainant.
Yeah.
Case is over. But he was like, dude,
she
has moved on.
Yeah.
Okay? Move on to.
I hope he doesn't attempt to
What is it with these stabbings all over the landscape?
Yeah.
For heaven's sake.
Yep.
It's like we have suddenly unearthed a certain culture of rage. There's an issue, people are stabbed. Yesterday, people were drawing pistols.
Yep.
Like
there was somebody who actually had a very big sword. And he's holding a knife.
Yes.
They stabbed the tires of the car and deflated the vehicle's tires. But you can imagine, just one small incident and a dagger goes into somebody.
That fellow could have died.
It would have been very easy.
Yep.
There's something wrong, guys.
No, there's something very wrong. In fact, talking of violence, one of the things that are referred to as drug-induced violence at the coast, especially in the areas of Kisauni, young men, muggers, what I am told they do, you know these coat hangers that are made out of some sort of metallic wire, okay? They straighten it and then sharpen it. So when they accost you, they actually stab you with it. And they choose. So they disable you completely. Because if someone stabs you around the chest area, it doesn't matter what the hit or miss.
Internal injury, clear.
You will not move.
You'll find something.
You will not be able to do anything.
Good grief.
Now, whenever we talk about the direction that our society is taking, people say it's going south. It is going beyond south.
It is south.
It's extending past south.
It's going past.
It's not good. It's not good.
Let's take a break at this point. 7:15. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. We're looking at the newspaper headlines this morning, looking at more headlines shortly.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Japan, biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan?
Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da!
Japan?
Yes!
You will have to first learn Japanese.
No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable.
Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
So you see these masks
Yeah.
that are essentially supposed to protect us from COVID-19. Now, it seems that they are the headache when it comes to exam cheating, or that they will present a headache when it comes to exam cheating. We saw that CS Magoha had this meeting with school heads and education officers around the country. He had this meeting yesterday, and one of the things that he kept talking about was exam cheating. Now they're talking about a fresh challenge in checking examination cheats as emerged that face masks may give way to impersonation. New examination rules released by the Kenya National Examination Council yesterday require that the 1.9 million candidates wear masks at all times. The masks will only be lowered during frisking to allow for identification of the candidates. They must wear face masks properly throughout the examination. Refusal shall constitute examination irregularity. Candidates with hearing impairment sitting for KCSE may be required to remove their masks while taking the practical signing examinations. Similarly, invigilators and school staff will be required to wear masks and shall only be removed when signing candidates with hearing impairments. Speaking on the sidelines of a meeting to discuss the security of the examinations yesterday, some ministry officials said wearing of masks will call for more surveillance. So it means that they have to do a little bit more work than when it comes to this, because even without masks, there was the chance of impersonation for these exams. So now you can imagine when somebody has a mask on, you're not really sure who it is, right? Normally. So then during an exam, how are you going to make sure who it is?
Well, you can tell a student remove your mask as you enter class so that you can verify.
But for some reason, they see this as an issue.
This is
because he stuck on it during this meeting yesterday. He stuck on it for some time. He dedicated at least 40 minutes to just this mask and impersonation.
It's important that it should be, but surely, this is dramatic. Are you telling me that something as simple as identification? I mean, surely it just involves removing the mask so that you can be. What's complicated about this? In all honesty, unless it's something that I have missed and I don't understand.
It's visual identification, and once the student has entered, the candidate has entered the examination
hall, they're not coming out to say that you're going to swap with somebody.
For the next 40 minutes, they're there.
Do you know where this is possible? I don't know whether this is still the case, but with private candidates. Where the exams were sat in public places like halls, okay? This is possible. Because in all honesty, how do you know who is who? Okay?
Because you didn't teach them.
They're private candidates.
Exactly.
Okay. The visual identification is zero.
Yes.
You cannot say, you're
not
the
Eric. Yeah.
So long as you present yourself as Eric, it's good enough.
Yeah.
And remember, they're at an age where you don't really have an identification. And private candidates can also be adults.
Yes.
So, if that was a scenario, I would understand. But in a school setting, man, the students are known.
I would have said that maybe there was the whole issue of perhaps trying to
Of
put pointers,
Kenya on the
writing
mask.
pointers right on the mask, and then you pull it this way and look through it, which is an issue.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
that you can see the words.
Having a cheat sheet. John is already posting it on
Yeah,
the
well,
putting it
John,
on the,
all right, John.
Yeah, something like that. In fact, that's what I thought.
That's
that
what I thought the issue was
the
going to
headline
be.
was talking about.
Yeah, but
The Nation covers the same story, but now it goes with a different angle and says that Magoha was saying this exam will be like no other. The National Examinations Council will be very, very aware of what happened last year. The students were away from school for 9 months. And so, and this is something that you've told us a time before, CT, during marking, they'll be considering this. As they're working on the marks, they'll be considering, okay, so what is it that has happened? And that's why Magoha said, we know the exams will be different and will be administered with a human face. The results will not be outrageous. The chairman of the National Examinations Council, John Onsati, said this year the COVID pandemic impacted negatively on the teaching and learning process. It will call upon all of us to be aware of the situation on the ground and address any challenges appropriately. He goes further to say all efforts will be made to ensure that marking of national exams will not be affected by the COVID pandemic. An expert says you could work on the distribution of the scores per subject, check where the highest, majority and lowest scores are, and decide to add, say, like 5 marks to create a normal curve. So they'll do all that science to balance it out.
They always do. I mean, it's not just with the Kenya National Examination Council. At whatever level of education, even at university level, you look at the performance, okay? And it tells you. So you then initiate a process that determines where the pass mark is. Either raise it up or lower it. It's, believe me, these processes always have a human face. They do. They do.
Okay. What's the headline in the Business Daily?
This one, we are very happy and gung-ho about the 1 million plus vaccines that we have received.
All right.
Is that not so?
yes.
Yes, but something else that is happening, it's the audit by MPs in the Parliamentary Budget and Appropriation Committees. They disclose that there is a required allocation for 4.5 billion for the next phase of the COVID-19 vaccination that was not included in the spending planning that is supposed to start in July.
So vaccine money has not been factored into the budget.
Yes. So this phase beginning in July, when we are supposed to now talk about the second phase, the 4.5 billion shillings that are required have not been factored into the budget.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, all right.
So what are they going to do about it, the MPs?
Well,
You have
apart from talking about it,
Eh.
I also wait to see.
Okay.
Yes.
There's a story, similar story, but it's on the matter of budget, page 8 of the Nation. And this is where the MPs were telling the National Treasury, tame borrowing appetite or else. Ends there.
And the or else
Ends
is
there.
it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it ends there. So they were discussing the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, which reviewed the budgetary policy statement that had been presented by the National Treasury. We've seen this before. The committee goes and says, but you guys are supposed to have done this, but you did not do this. But then the final recommendation is, let's just pass this budget. So it's before the House. And MPs are going to say, now, even as MPs spoke, the country's debt portfolio is set to rise further as MPs prepare to approve the borrowing of 930 million shillings to bridge the financial gap in the 3.02 trillion of the 2021-2022 budget. The chairman of that committee, Kanini Kega, warned that a blatant increase of the country's fiscal deficit will no longer be tolerated by the House. Any increase of the fiscal deficit beyond what has been approved for the 2020-2021-22 financial year will not be approved by Parliament. We are doing this because we want to reduce this appetite of borrowing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. They really want to.
Yeah. These people should just all be fired. Go home. Just
Speaking about MPs and what they're pushing for,
Yeah.
the state now makes a U-turn on changes to the UK trade deal. The executive has bowed to pressure from Parliament and allowed MPs to make amendments to the Kenya-UK trade deal. However, the changes shall be considered a year after the deal comes into effect. Trade and Cooperatives PS Johnson Weru appealed to lawmakers to pass the ratification of the pact with reservations. Should Kenyans, through their representatives in Parliament, express reservations, they can be considered 1 year upon ratification of the agreement. This PS said the memorandum sent to Parliament by Trade Cabinet Secretary Betty Minor, barring MPs from making any changes to the pact, was not part of the Economic Partnership Agreement. We want to convince members to become our ambassadors during a debate on the ratification. Minor said Kenya has a chance or a choice to continue with the partnership or abandon it altogether within a year if it is not working for its people.
Lakini, you see, so ratification of any treaty is supposed to go through Parliament.
Yes.
And the law that allows this to happen also says that Parliament can look at what has been agreed and make amendments. This particular agreement has a clause that says that neither of the two parliaments in Kenya or the UK can amend anything. So already we are starting on a wrong footing. So this thing of saying, okay, it's like now the the executive is on that's deciding what law to apply. It's okay, you guys can amend, but it will take effect after 1 year. What do you mean?
Yeah. So
what do you mean?
Basically, you can't.
That's not what the law says. The law says that you shall come and we can amend. Hey, let's end with this one. Let me just give you a story. So, the editorial director of The Nation is called Mutuma Matthew. On Fridays, Mutuma Matthew writes an opinion piece. Today, he has decided to write an opinion piece to educate people on how the media works. He says, experts, and he puts that in quotes, this is how media works. I have gone into a psychotic loop over the flack we got over our expose about politicians trying to jump the COVID-19 queue a few days ago. Much of it was lots of shouting and a bit of odd display of fake chest hair on social media. So I'm going to turn this into a service, a teaching moment for purposes of therapy. In this country, some of the biggest, most influential media experts are not journalists or media scholars. They are jobbers, crooks, never-do-wells, who think media work consists of frightening the daylights out of neophytes and not too clever public officials, collecting huge sums of money from them and distributing it to a coterie of their crook friends in the media. So he goes ahead to give point 1, point 2, point 3, says, when we are publishing a story, when we are writing a story, we go through various steps. Number 1 and most important is verification and confirmation. Number 2, we have a source. Number 3, we are not biased. So all you guys were sitting there thinking, this media is fake media, to dismiss editorial work as a figment of the reporter's imagination, says that is absolute balderdash. We have a right as Kenyans to report what we see. If you've got a problem with that, become a journalist.
If not, come and go and sit down.
Come and go and sit down. Keep it right here. In the next hour, we talk about investment and investment options. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. The Situation Room will also be live on KTN Home. And also, we continue live streaming the show on SpiceFM KE, on YouTube, on Facebook and Twitter. And we are on SpiceFM. Good morning. It's now 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Spice FM, Nakuru.
Okay,
Traffic.
so unfortunately, the Nairobi commuter train has stalled again this morning, and that's an issue for folks who are trying to get into the city, and they're waiting for reinforcements. Apparently, it's stuck just past the Mweki Bridge, and everybody has to get down now, or at least wait for the other engine to get here. This is the second time this week that that's happening, guys. Thika Road is a parking lot already from Githurai 45. We saw that accident that happened there earlier, so that is the problem. Traffic is as far back as a Safari Park Hotel now, and trying to get into the CBD. Mombasa Road, just near the SGR, terrible traffic that's headed out into the city. Jogger Road from St. Teresa towards Pangani is moving just past the lights. Hopefully that will open up in a while. All right, getting to the Pangani underpass on Thika Road is going to be a nightmare. Coming off of Kiambu Road and then joining Thika Road, also this one, we hope that you'll wake up from in good time. It is Friday, things are bound to be crazy. Let us know if you're stuck somewhere. The Eastern, Southern and Red Hill bypasses can be used, however. Talk to us should you need to. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text us 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
It's 2.5 minutes
only
after
way to
7
start
o'clock.
your
This
day.
is Kenya's biggest conversation. Thank you very much for tuning in to SpiceFM this morning. This is the second hour of our show. We broadcast until 10 a.m. every weekday morning. We are live on SpiceFM. We are online. And for the next 2 hours, we're also live on KTN Home. A very good morning, viewers on TV. Welcome to a radio experience on your TV. Let's begin the hour with the day's proverb. C.T. Muga.
The one nearest to the enemy is the leader.
The one nearest to the enemy is the leader.
Mm-hmm.
I can't help but just reverse those. It's okay. You'll explain it.
Well, that's the thing about Proverbs. You see, it isn't as though there's one universal meaning or there's one universal understanding that everyone must subscribe to. No. You look at it and you mirror it to the circumstances that you think is most suitable. If your choice is to
turn it around and say the
by
one
all-
nearest to the leader is the enemy.
by all means, turn it around.
It may have a different meaning altogether, though.
Let it have a different meaning.
Interpretation.
It actually plays the part of what a proverb is supposed to do. Among the things it's supposed to jog your memory, your mind, get your mind working and thinking, what could this thing possibly mean? Could it be? Are these the possibilities? Have I missed something out?
Yeah.
Someone else comes along and says, I think it ought to be this.
That's
so
someone being Eric Latif.
that's someone being none other than Eric Latif.
The one nearest to the enemy is the leader.
Yes.
That is the proverb. Okay. So let's talk about investment and investment options. For Kenyans, how you can diversify your investment to avoid loss. And this is all that talk of not putting all your eggs in one basket. Okay? Our guest today has come with the baskets and he's going to tell us how. Who has the eggs? Ndu? Who carried the eggs? They were out there. We left them out there.
Eric, you put the cart before the horse here, really. Okay, eggs. You cannot discuss eggs without discussing chicken.
The chicken.
So you should be asking who's holding the chicken.
Well, who's holding the chicken?
Yes.
Okay. Nahashan Mongai is the Executive Director in charge of global markets at Standard Investment Bank. Nahashan, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Have a good time as you occupy the hot seat this morning.
Thank you.
Warming it up just a little bit for you.
Okay.
Let's start by you explaining to us what Standard Investment Bank is.
Okay.
We know very many standard banks in this country.
Yes.
Are you affiliated to them or are you different?
That's a very good question, and thank you for having me on your show. So I'm Nahashan Mongai. I'm the Executive Director in charge of global markets at Standard Investment Bank. So Standard Investment Bank is a fully indigenous investment bank. So no relation whatsoever to Standard Bank South Africa. We just have the same name. But we've been around for 26 years now. We were founded as Standard Stocks in 1995 and now are one of the top investment banks in Kenya.
What is an investment bank? Because when you say bank,
yes,
I think banking hall.
Yes.
I think accounts, savings
Yes.
accounts,
Yes.
current accounts. Nowadays, they even offer you a foreign currency account.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Then, if you really have oodles and oodles of money, fixed deposit accounts. Okay? Those are the things that we come across. So, what do you do? And why do you call yourself an investment bank instead of just calling yourself a bank?
So as the name suggests, an investment bank primarily deals with investments. So helping investors or helping institutions, individuals, fund managers put their money to use in capital markets. So if you're looking to buy shares, if you're looking to buy bonds, if you're looking for If you're looking to get some sort of advisory work, mergers and acquisitions, listing of your company, you don't go to a commercial bank. You come to an investment bank. So that's a difference. So we don't give loans or open accounts and take deposits from investors. We just work, from the public. We just work on behalf of investors, those who are looking to make investments. That's what we do for them.
How do you make your money then? Because you don't take money from these people. You just organize things for them.
Yes. We take
charity
commissions.
organization.
It's not a charity organization. Far from it. So we help. For example, if say you buy or sell shares through us, there's a commission that we charge, and that's how we make our money.
So essentially, what you're saying is an investment bank manages portfolios for people, whether it is shares, whether it is, you call them bonds, isn't it?
Yes, government bonds, corporate bonds, any type of bonds.
If I have a business and I want to make it public,
then
I come to you to advise on how that should work.
Absolutely.
And are your doors open, Nahashan? I mean, in terms of who, because when we hear these hoity-toity names like investment bank, and we think to ourselves, okay, it's only for a particular cadre of society, only people who've amassed a certain amount of wealth can then now come and knock on your doors and say, can you help me? So for the person who has their little, amounts of money every month and says, all right, is there something I can do investment-wise? Then perhaps you would not be able to listen.
Yes, we can
those
still.
Individuals.
No, we listen to everybody. So from the retail investor on the street to the high net worth individuals to institutional investors. So everybody, our doors are open to everybody. There's something for everybody. So a retail investor who's looking to grow their portfolio from as little as maybe just buying a few shares in the stock market, we can help that investor. To an investor who's as large as, say, a company like Safaricom, for example, looking to do an IPO. So we're able to deal with all those types of investors, and there's something for everybody. So the doors are open. Yes.
What's the difference between an investment bank and a stock brokerage?
So a stock brokerage is part of so an investment bank is bigger than a stock brokerage firm, but a stock brokerage can be domiciled within an investment bank. So, for example, within Standard Investment Bank, we still have a stock brokerage division. So, a stock brokerage simply just buys and sells shares on behalf of investors, and that's about it. But an investment bank will do that amongst other things. So, buy and sell shares on behalf of investors, but we'll do other things like advising them. We can create funds. We can do discretionary portfolio management for them. We can do advisory work. So a bit more universe of assets that can be handled by an investment bank.
And who regulates you? Sorry, Siti. Who regulates you? Is it the
Capital Markets Authority?
Okay.
CMA.
So not a CBK?
Not the CBK.
Okay. So this separation of functions, what you're saying is that it's in our laws, isn't it?
Yes.
Are there countries in the world where what we call regular banking and investment banking are more or less one and the same thing?
Well,
or are they part and parcel of the same sort of like basket?
Well, if you go to the West, for a very long time, especially before what you call the Dodd-Frank Act, there was very little to distinguish between investment banks and commercial banks in the West. But now they're very much similar to what we have here. So you have to separate investment banks from commercial banks, even if they fall under the same entity. So you can find an entity like, say, JP Morgan. It will have a commercial bank inside and an investment bank inside, but it's the same entity. But yes, the divisions are very important. And by law and by regulation, there needs to be Chinese walls between the two.
Why?
It's actually really to protect investors.
How?
By making sure, for example, if I take your money and I'm investing for you, I'm acting at absolute goodwill and without intertwining it with my capital. For example, if I'm running a commercial bank and, for example, I'm looking to make a profit off a certain stock, I need to be able to buy and sell stocks on behalf of my investors without jeopardizing them by buying at a preferential price to myself, which is called front running.
Right, but if you are buying, you offer financial services for people who are interested in buying, selling stocks and so forth.
Yes.
The process of buying and selling involves getting money, and money will be gotten from what we call regular banks. Is that not so?
Well, if you're investing in capital markets, your source of funds can come from anywhere. Not necessarily
like, for instance,
banks, from whatever business you engage in.
Yes, but banks are never. For instance, if I wanted to buy shares from you, isn't it?
Yes.
Would you allow me to bring a gunny bag full of cash in order to buy shares? Or would you prefer that I conduct the business through some financial service offered by a bank?
No, of course you'd have to bank it.
Precisely.
Yes.
My point. So
Yes.
what I'm saying is,
Yes.
I like the point you made about separating the functions for purpose of protection.
Yes.
But really, where is the protection? Because at the end of the day,
Yes.
you still have to involve yourself with banks. So if just because you're not part of the bank
Yes.
doesn't mean you cannot collude with them.
No, the protection comes in information. All right. So it's not really the access to funds. So when you're executing a trade, there's a certain price that we will know of. All right. So when we are buying or selling on your behalf, we help you to execute the trade. That is really an information advantage. It's not about the source of funds. Source of funds can come from anywhere, from your bank. If it's small amounts, it can be cash. But typically, the information advantage is what we are discussing here. Not really.
You see where I'm going
money,
with this is that when the moment you have regulators,
yes,
it means you require regulation. Why do you require regulation? Because human beings, being what and who they are,
yes.
I think you get the drift of what I'm saying.
Yes, of course. The reason why regulation exists is to protect investors.
Precisely.
And I agree with you that when money is involved,
Yes.
there are certain risks that come with it if humans are involved as well.
Yes.
That's why regulation is there. That's true.
A
That's
common
right.
phrase that is used in your industry, something called insider trading.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And it can't be just, for instance, those who are investment banking.
Yes.
It has to involve a larger group of people for it to actually work. Because at the end of the day,
Yes.
there are financial benefits to be derived. Is that not so?
That is true.
Precisely. Now,
Yes.
let's talk about protection, this protection that you speak of.
Yes.
How do you ensure that the investor is protected?
Okay, so how we ensure that the investor is protected is one, we have very clear Chinese walls. So for example, if you come to Standard Investment Bank, you'll find that the side of the investment bank that invests on behalf of investors is very different from what you call the execution side, where we buy or sell based on orders that we receive from clients. Because those are two very different scenarios. If I'm investing on your behalf, I'm essentially just working for you. I'm buying and selling shares, hoping that they'll gain value, for example, the same way you'd want to do it for yourself. But on the execution side, so what Eric referred to as stock brokerage, I'm just buying and selling based on your instructions. At that time, it doesn't really matter to me whether you're making us or losing money. It's really just buying or selling. So that's one of the ways now the regulator then protects investors is by separating those two functions. So they're very different.
Why must those two be different, though?
Because
so who is going in the case of SIB? So you
Yes.
have those two divisions, and like you say, they are separate.
Yes.
Are you saying that the execution is receiving orders from the what did you call the other division?
The buy side.
The buy side.
Yes.
So the buy side is the one that advises me as a client. And tells
Yes,
me,
the
"Let's
buy
look-"
side can actually invest on your behalf.
Okay.
And can actually invest on your behalf. So to give you an example, for example, in SIB, we have a fund called Mansa X. If you have invested in Mansa X, now you're on the buy side of the business. So we buy and sell on your behalf. So why do those two have to be separate? Because, for example, say he has bought or has placed an order to buy a stock at, say, 20 bob.
He is called City Muga.
City Muga.
Yes.
Sorry. So City Muga has placed an order to buy a stock at a certain price. Okay. I can, to the benefit of my investors, for example, go and buy before I execute his order. And it's called front running. Okay. So that's a very serious crime in our industry. And it can be done if those two roles are not separated. Because if I have that information, I will act on it. So that's how they separate those two functions. And that's why they do it.
So the industry survives on the promise that it is fair and that it is transparent.
Yes, and with a lot of regulatory oversight to ensure that. Yes.
That is not encouraging.
It is very encouraging. It is very encouraging.
The
I can
more-
guarantee
Regulatory
you.
oversight is not encouraging.
No,
I can
a
guarantee
lot
you
of
there
regulatory
is-
encouragement.
I think it's
No.
encouraging, City.
It's
It's
not
very
en-
encouraging because,
no, it's not encouraging.
every
It means that
industry...
these guys are not
Yeah.
operating without someone watching over them.
Correct. And every industry is to some extent required. I mean, even the media, for example, I'm sure there's some regulation that
Some,
allows
a lot of it.
a lot, isn't it?
Yes.
The same thing with us. So same thing. Any industry requires regulatory oversight. Of course, there's goodwill by the participants.
Sure.
Because if if we engage in nefarious activities that undermine our industry, we stand to lose anyway. All right. So there's already a lot of self-regulation by the industry, but overall oversight by a regulator is something that every industry has to have.
Okay. So can we look a little bit then about investments in the country at the moment?
Yeah.
And obviously, because this is the space within which you guys are swimming in right now. And if we just look at what happened specifically with COVID over the last 1 year, there was a lot of wishing that, had I had an extra amount of money, I would have put it in this place and then I could be now living on my returns if I lost a job, for example. Yeah. So what are some of those spaces that Kenyans can now or can look to play in when it comes to investments right now?
Okay, that's a good question. And it's nice that you brought up the aspect of why it's important to have investments like this as a nest egg. So let's just go to traditionally what we've always had. So typically, I'd say for a very long time in Kenya, what you had access to was investment in stocks, investments in real estate. And real estate was very popular and I think continues to be very popular amongst Kenyans. Right. Then you have investments in government bonds. Not that very well known, but was still there. So those are the investments that Kenyans had. And they all vary in risk, okay? So government bonds are perceived to be the least risky. That's because it's assumed that the government can never default on its debt. This is why you essentially are lent into the government, different tenors from as little as 91 days to as much as 30 years. And all these come with different interest rates. And so that's one of the investments that a Kenyan would have had. The other one would have been directly investing in the stock market. So you come to Standard Investment Bank, for example, and we buy shares on your behalf. And from these shares, you make two returns in two ways, either by the share appreciation of price, which is called capital gains, or the dividends that you earn from those stocks. Then the other one now would have been maybe investing in real estate, either by buying land and hoping that the land will gain in value, or maybe investing in property and earning rent or yield from that. Then the other investments would have been probably investing in the various funds that exist in the country. So there are various funds, from money market funds to balance funds to equity funds. So that is what you would have probably been looking at. But in 2016, Standard Investment Bank worked towards creating a product that would have helped investors be able to have exposure to more assets. And that's why today's conversation was very interesting for us, because you are focused on why diversification is important. And diversification is important for a number of reasons. The first one is the fact that it's important for you to minimize the risk of loss.
Sure.
So as an investor, you will not be able to minimize the risk of loss if you do not diversify the basket of eggs that you talked about. Then the second one is obviously the need to preserve your capital. The third one, the need to have an average, higher than average return. But then there's also another very important factor that nobody talks about, just liquidity, the ability to access funds as and when you need them. So going back to your example, so we created a fund called Mansa X. It's a multi-asset strategy fund. And this fund is, in my opinion, one of the best diversified funds that you can invest in. Why? Because we invest in all the asset classes that I mentioned earlier, but then we throw in even more. So we give clients exposure to markets in other markets. Exposure to financial instruments in other markets, in the US, UK, So if you're invested in Mansa X, for example, you have exposure to stocks like Facebook, Google, Amazon, which is very unique in our market. And the reason we did this was because we feel that diversification is not just a factor of how many assets you have in your portfolio, but even where they're domiciled. Because the Nairobi Stock Exchange might be doing poorly this year, but probably the New York Stock Exchange is outperforming, which is actually a very good example. If you saw what happened last year, things might have been looking very gloomy on this side of the world, but in the West, because of the Federal Reserve stimulus, things are actually looking very bright. Yeah. And this is why this fund was still able to return 24%, 23.75% to be exact last year before our fees. And this is really just a factor of diversification.
If you brought it home, really brought it home. So what are Kenyans looking at? The average Kenyan, for example, who wants to look at this diversification of investment, what are they looking at? 50,000 shillings, 100,000 shillings, a million bob to be able to get in on this party, as it were?
Okay. That's a good question. So when it comes to a fund like ours, the minimum is 250,000. If I was a typical Kenyan, then one way you can replicate a fund like that by starting slowly. So if you're looking at the stock market with as little as 10,000 shillings, you can create a portfolio and you can start there and build it over time. If you're looking at investing in government bonds, the minimum is 50,000 shillings. And again, you can have a portfolio mix of that type. So it's your risk and how you diversify your portfolio is also dependent on how old you are. So somebody older might be more biased towards a less risky investment portfolio mix. So you probably have more government bonds than shares and alternative investments, and the reverse for younger people. So if you're younger, you probably would want to, or you'd be advised to have more risky assets in your portfolio so that over time they'll outperform a normal investment. So bring it again to a normal Kenyan. If you come to Standard Investment Bank, we'll give you advice on what you can get into with whatever you have. And it's something that if you're disciplined enough can grow into a substantial sum over time. Yeah.
So with all those, any ordinary person who has 10,000 shillings can talk to you, or is it 50,000 shillings?
Absolutely.
What's the minimum? 1,000 bob?
You know what? Even zero, because it's a journey. Because you might not even have the funds to begin with, but you can come to us and we can tell you what you need to do to get your journey started. So you can come to us with absolutely nothing, and we'll open the accounts that are required, because these accounts are free anyway.
Okay.
You can open accounts that help you to invest in the stock market, or accounts that help you to be able to buy government bonds in the future. A lot of these processes at the beginning do not even involve any capital outlay. Then we'll guide you based on what you think you probably earn in the future. We can guide you on what you need to do, and therefore anyone can come to our office and talk to us.
Is this one of those things where they say, some of the world's wealthiest people then who've made these good decisions about where they invest their money have said things like, you want to get into income streams that can increase even while you're asleep?
Absolutely.
Is this one of those things that we're talking about?
It is
now?
Exactly those things. I mean, the most important thing is to invest in asset classes that, number one, give you good cash flow over time. Two, do not need a lot of your effort to actually do that. So exactly what you're saying. As you sleep, are you earning something? Are you earning some dividends somewhere? Are you earning some coupons from some bonds that you invested in somewhere? So yes, this is exactly the kind of conversation that we should be having. And I know for a very long time, capital markets participants probably did not come out very much to talk to ordinary Kenyans. And this is something that Standard Investment Bank is really working to change that narrative. And one of the reasons for that is because we feel that for a very long time, Kenyans went into a lot of illiquid assets because that's the only thing they knew about anyway. So for a very long time, Kenyans just bought land. They would buy land or whatever. And I just want to focus on land, first of all, because if you're not adding value to land, all right, there's a very big chance that you've just created a problem for yourself.
Right.
Because you've invested money somewhere where, in case of an emergency, you can't access that money quickly enough. And before you ever sell it, you do not get consistent cash flows from that investment. So that's what you call an illiquid investment. And there are so many other options that exist in capital markets that can give you a higher return while still giving you that liquidity. That means the ability to access your funds as and when you need them, and also consistent cash flows.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's take a break at this point. 25 minutes after 7. We're having a conversation with Nahashan Mungai. He's Executive Director for Global Markets at Standard Investment Bank. The conversation today is investment options for Kenyans, how to diversify, when to diversify, and where to. When we come back, we'll be looking also at some of the comments and questions that you're posting on social media. For example, Porters is asking Nahashan, what is your take on Bitcoin? Some of the things that we'll be talking about, okay? Just keep it right here. This conversation continues. We are live on SpiceFM, online, and on KTN Home.
Have you seen them? Am I live?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone in Wasingishu was asking me what channel is SpiceFM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you.
What a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
Japan, biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan?
Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da!
Japan?
Yes!
You will have to first learn Japanese.
No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable.
Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
The weather with
Okay, so we're looking at clear conditions. Partly cloudy in Nairobi through most parts of the morning. 26 the high and lows of 16 today. Mostly cloudy in Nyeri at 14, going to highs of 25. We're looking at partly cloudy conditions in Nakuru. 27 the high and lows of 15. 25 will also be the high in Eldoret. 15 degrees at the moment and clear. 21 degrees, clear skies in Kisumu now. The rain seems to have stopped. Highs of 30 and lows of 20 today. It's also clear going into the weekend in Kakamega. 31 the high, lows of 17. Clear conditions in Mombasa at 25. We'll see highs of 33 and lows of 26. 27 is what it is in Malindi, clear and highs of 31. It rains and it continues to in Kampala, 19 degrees, highs of 27 and lows of 20. Partly cloudy conditions in Dar es Salaam at 27, highs of 32 and lows of 28. 15 is what it is now in Johannesburg, and that'll be the low for today, going to highs of 26. And partly cloudy conditions in Lagos, 28, highs of 33 and lows of 27. And it started to rain in Kinshasa at 25. We'll see highs of 34 and lows of 24.
.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. Traffic.
Okay, so Thika Road today, that's the problem that we see. So a lot of things going on in that area. Traffic backed up to Githurai. The Ruiru train has stalled. People looking for transport. So Thika Road is not giving up those good vibes this morning, unfortunately. Hopefully that Kenya Rails will sort that one out because they're waiting for a new engine to come and take people to where they should be going. Mombasa Road outbound, the SGR through to General Motors, that's very slow this morning, but it doesn't look too terrible today. It's a good Friday, I would say. Coming off of Ngong Road, Langata Road, doesn't look too bad. Coming out of Westlands, however, all the way through to the roundabout at the University Way, it's very slow. Uhuru Highway is that place today. Kangemi, the bridge is being removed officially, we know this, and it's going to cause some traffic, and that traffic continues for some days until that is sorted out. We're also going to see some traffic right at Jogger Road because of the work that's going on with Kura. So as you approach, take care. Let us know if you're stuck somewhere. We can see if we can provide alternatives or at least sit you through it. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
This is
Nairobi.
Conversation, the Situation Room, broadcasting on Spice FM. Spice up yourself online as well. Spice FM KE on YouTube, on Facebook and Twitter. And we are live on KTN Home. Having a conversation about investment opportunities, investment options for Kenyans, how you can diversify your portfolio. And to help us with that is the Executive Director in charge of Global Market at Standard Investment Bank, Nahashan Mungai.
Someone asked about Bitcoin.
Yep.
I apart from reading that it exists
Yes.
and that people invest in it,
Yes.
I know absolutely nothing about it.
Yes.
Maybe you can shed a little light before I actually ask you what I really want to ask you.
Okay. Okay. So Bitcoin is an alternative currency, essentially, created by programmers about a decade ago. And it's based on a program that creates, using blockchain technology, a restricted number of Bitcoins were then created, about 21,000 of them, that you need to use mathematical programming skills to be able to produce, referred to as mining. So essentially, it's like digital gold, essentially. You create
digital currency.
Yeah, it's like digital currency. Actually, like gold, because it's non-yielding. Non-yielding means it doesn't actually give you any interest. It's really just its value comes out of the fact that it's hard to get. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Its value is derived by the fact it's difficult to mine and difficult to acquire. That's where the value comes from. The value doesn't come from because if you hold it, you're going to earn any sort of interest on it. That's what we call a non-yielding asset. It's very similar to what you have with gold. So that's what Bitcoin is, but now in a digital space.
All created by somebody's idea.
All created by somebody's idea.
So that it could be me, for example, going up and picking up a substance from somewhere and creating enough buzz around it
Yes.
to get people to think that it was actually treasured and that it's of great value and
Yes.
there's very little of it available.
Yes.
And I too could also come up with something like that if I had the right networks and such.
You know what? Absolutely. Especially if you throw in one extra ingredient, the inability to replicate whatever it is you've created.
Right.
Saying that, you know what I've created right now, you will need certain tools and effort to be able to recreate it, and therefore that in itself then causes other people to validate your point.
Does it make you wealthier? Can you, if
Who,
you
the creator?
No. This Bitcoin itself, because
Yes.
if we're looking at alternative forms or avenues for investment,
Yes.
and there are people who are chasing after this thing as we speak now. People are going crazy about Bitcoin.
Yes.
Does it? Can you then? Because then, can you retrieve the way you say that you can have access to your money in investments, for example, as and when you need it? I can go into my accounts at SIB, for example, and pull out cash if I need it.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
With Bitcoin now,
Yes.
as a form of investment, can you say, okay, well, I've traded it, I've mined quite some. I need some cash.
Yes.
Can I go?
Yes, absolutely. It's a very liquid market. It's a very active market. There's also another advantage. I mean, there's another use for Bitcoin.
Okay.
The fact it's very untraceable. It's used for a lot of activities. And
50%.
50% of Bitcoin usage is actually illegal activity. Okay, that's another reason why it's so popular. If I've done some nefarious activity somewhere and I need payment, if, for example, we've hacked into Standard Media, for example, and needed payment, we wouldn't ask for it in Kenya shillings. We'd probably ask for it in Bitcoin because it's untraceable. So that's one of the advantages and one of the reasons why it's so popular.
Okay, so what's the difference between now that digital currency and what governments do with fiat?
So first, the regulatory aspect of it. Okay, so Bitcoin is not regulated. Okay, now when it comes to fiat currency, central banks will put,
Hold on, Nation. Hold on. Not regulated by government.
By government, yes, absolutely. It's not regulated by government.
Yes.
Is there any other way?
Yes.
Self-regulation.
No, it isn't self. It's
Market regulation.
Market regulation,
Market
exactly. Those who are
regulation.
involved in the business of Bitcoin,
Yes.
there has to be some
regulated
form of
themselves.
regulation.
Yeah.
The fact that it's difficult to mine,
Yes.
difficult to access, that's already regulation.
That's in a sense true. I mean, but yes, so they're regulated by government. So
Yes.
government will put the force of government behind it. That's why it's called legal tender. So Bitcoin does not have that.
Would you encourage, from where you sit with investment portfolio, would you encourage people to go into Bitcoin?
The thing is, Bitcoin is a very volatile asset. And we've had several bubbles and busts in Bitcoin. Okay? Several. I mean, let's even go back as far back as, say, 2013, when we saw Bitcoin rise to as high as $1,000 a coin. And at the time, that was considered a phenomenal rise in the price of Bitcoin. And then it crashed back down to 200 in a few months.
And now?
Now again, then we went back to as high as 5,000. We thought, this is crazy. Then again, crashed back to 2,000. Then rose all the way to 10,000. We thought that was the end. Crashed back to 5,000, 20,000. Now we're at $52,000.
Yes.
So, as a Kenyan, do you look at it in terms of how much is Bitcoin worth in dollars, and then you convert from those dollars to shillings, or is there a direct conversion?
Yes. You have to jump those two hoops. So
Okay.
dollars and shilling. But to answer your question, I think if you invest in as an individual, you probably, there's probably still some growth that will be seen in Bitcoin. Why? Because a lot of institutional hedge fund managers globally are now accepting it as an asset class. Before they were not. Okay, that's part of the reason why it's actually gained. Just that acceptance, as you said, market regulation. So sometimes if those who are seen to be the big boys actually accept that this is actually something that can be invested in, it gives it legitimacy, and that legitimacy has led to the increased valuation of Bitcoin. I think we could actually print $100,000 of Bitcoin eventually.
Wow.
Yes. The question for an individual to ask themselves is, are you ready for the volatility that comes with holding an asset class like that? For example, us at Mansa X, we are not really allowed even by the regulator locally to invest in this. But if, say, you are investing in this yourself, something you have to ask yourself, one, are you ready for that volatility? Two, are you willing, if it collapses and goes to zero, or someone says that Bitcoin is not real, are you ready for the fact that there's no regulatory recourse on this? Because the central bank will not back this up.
Your loss.
Yes, you just walk away with your loss.
Yeah.
The CMA will not back you up on this either.
You see sorry, Eric, go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to say Bitcoin is not the only digital currency.
No, there are very many other variations of the same.
And there's been news that China is also rolling out something of the sort.
Yes, everybody wants in on it, and the Chinese have always regulated their currency. Not regulated, actually sort of fixed their currency. And so for a very long time, the Chinese like to play in spaces where they can actually create something that is unique to their economy. So it's not only unique to China. We've had a lot of countries come up with Bitcoins that are unique to their jurisdictions, even sometimes just to test whether this is something that can actually work and maybe one day replace fiat in any way.
But it functions in the same way as a fiat, because if you were talking about the example you gave of, say, hedge funds, it's a question of it is accepted by what you call the currency, like the banknotes we have that are produced.
Yes.
The reason why it works is because we've accepted it. We've accepted to use as legal tender.
Yes.
It's the basis on which it is actual legal tender, is it not?
Yes, except for one difference. So this is how Bitcoin does not behave like fiat. For fiat, for Bitcoin, a lot of its valuation is really just because it's hard to get. That's why it's easier to compare Bitcoin to a commodity than actually a currency. And that's why at the beginning I mentioned I would compare Bitcoin to gold more than I would to fiat currency.
You see, if I look at, for instance, as you said, the general acceptability, and you gave the example of the hedge funds.
Yes.
Essentially, it's a normalizing of that particular currency, meaning people who ordinarily wouldn't have considered it something that they would include in their day-to-day processes. That's where the element of acceptance that I'm talking about is coming from.
Yes.
So, yes, indeed, it is a rare commodity, just as gold was. But then gold then was used as a standard on which currencies were based. So are we saying that we may see a situation where Bitcoin has the same function as gold once had when it came to backing certain values of currencies?
That's actually possible. Yeah, what you call Bitcoin Cash, where you derive cash out of the value of the underlying Bitcoin. Yes, that's possible. It's actually possible. As long as, that it continues being viewed as a valid commodity that's scarce. That's absolutely possible that you can base currencies out of it.
But if you think of the precious metals that were used as a foundation on which currencies
it's the same basis, yes.
Same, yes. And basis, even those were restricted. It isn't as though the world supply of gold ran out. No.
Yes.
It was controlled.
Yes.
Now, let me ask you what I really wanted to ask you.
Yes.
Okay? Insurance companies refer to themselves as financial institutions nowadays.
They've always been.
Well, they call themselves that now.
Okay.
So they become financial advisors.
Okay.
Okay, now, are they competitors to what you do? Do they augment your business? And do you have other competitors, people who don't call themselves investment banks but do exactly what you do or something similar?
That's a good question. Okay, so they don't compete with us. So that's the first thing. They're not competitors. Insurance companies do something that's very different from what we do. They're there to not necessarily advise you on how to invest. They're there to help you, to advise you on what you need to do to protect yourself if something went wrong. And that's fundamentally different. As an investment bank, we assume that you're always there and you're healthy and you're able to come with us and put money with us and invest it somewhere. An insurance company will take your premiums, for example, for life insurance, and if you only make 2 premium payments, all right, if you die, they'll still have to make a large payout as you had originally agreed because of the contract that you had with them. So those two are different in that sense.
So an insurance company essentially is protecting you
Yes.
to be able to operate with an investment bank, for
Yes,
example.
or wherever else.
It's protecting you so that you can operate.
Yeah, so you
Okay.
can operate. I mean, you can invest with an investment bank, or you can continue doing your business without any fear that if something happened to me and I had not yet built my portfolio with Standard Investment Bank, now my family is going to go hungry.
Sure.
So it really augments the business, so to speak. An insurance companies, for example, the premiums that they collect from their clients, they will actually buy or sell assets in the capital markets through investment banks like us.
Okay.
So they really augment our business. They're actually our clients.
Okay.
Yeah.
Coming back to the issue of the basket and how to diversify then your portfolio.
Yeah.
You told us, okay, many things that you can do. You can look at government bonds, you can look at the stock market, you can look at real estate, you can look at funds. At Mansa now, you're even looking at international markets. Does Mansa also buy gold?
Yes. Yes,
so
we
you
do.
can actually now come in and say, so I'm putting in this amount of money.
Yes.
Get me some gold here, get me some. Or how will you go
So
about it?
so what Mansa does is if essentially just does the heavy lifting for you. So we made these decisions for you. We make these decisions on your behalf. So it's a discretionary fund. All right. So all this diversification we are talking about, it might be difficult for Eric when he's working here to constantly be wondering where is gold trading right now?
Yeah.
Where is oil trading? And these are assets that we trade in Mansa. You know, where is the euro trading against the dollar? Where is natural gas trading today, and so on and so forth. Now, Mansa creates a fund that does all this heavy lifting at the back end and gives you a very simple offering that just give us the money, we'll do all this on your behalf. And that's why Mansa is so special.
With a guarantee that it's the best that you're getting.
With a
in
guarantee
terms
that
of
it's the
option.
best that you're getting. And I think this fund diversifies so well for you that a lot of things would have to go wrong for it not to actually lose your capital. But that's what Mansa does, the heavy lifting for you. And that's the real beauty of this fund.
What are the risks? And the risk here, for example, I hear you say, in the last 1 year you've looked at the kind of investments that you've put in and where you've invested and even got the returns of about 23.5%?
23.75.
23.75%.
Yes.
Now, that is already a catch. When you say 23.75%, someone is thinking, I want to go and invest in Mansa. What are the risks?
Yeah.
Is there a risk that I've put in at on the basis of the 23.75 of the past,
Yeah.
and it could actually now turn out to be 2 in future?
Yeah. Okay. So what are the risks? Whenever you invest in different asset classes, if you've invested in property, if you've invested in stocks, if you've invested in bonds, one of the reasons why you really should diversify your portfolio is something called systemic risks. So for example, if you invest in banking stocks, for example, and something changes and the regulatory landscape for banks, for example, see what happened with the interest rate capping, that would reduce the performance of your stocks that you had bought. So when you come to Mansa, one of the advantages that we have is spreading out your portfolio so much that there are so many risks, yes, in each individual asset class, but they are minimized by the fact that they are downplayed by the fact that they're really spread out in a portfolio. So yes, within the fund, there are risks that some asset classes will probably underperform and will probably not perform so well. For example, if you look at how gold has performed the last 1 month, it's actually lost value. All right, and these are some of the assets we hold. All right, but it doesn't bother us because we have other assets that have gained value during that period as well. So yes, there are inherent risks within the fund, but they are well managed by the fact that we've diversified for you. And then we have something called, and this is very unique to what we do, we are able to use a long-short trading model, meaning that we don't only make money when asset prices gain in value, we also make money when they lose in value. And that's, again, very unique to us. So are there risks within the fund? Absolutely. But the risk management framework that we have ensures that we are able to give you reasonable returns over a long period of time. Yeah.
What are you advising folks to invest in now? I mean, because we have crazy things going on, different parts of the world where people would have said to have actualized in business. People are investing in space. People are investing in things that for people here would be out of this world, right?
Yes.
So if we domicile these ideas now, what would you say the top 3 or the top 5 that you're advising people to go into, or really like what are the hot cakes right now?
Tech stocks will continue to rise. Okay, last year we saw phenomenal gains in some of these stocks. We're talking about Manson making 23.75. If you had bought Tesla last year, you'd be up 700% on your portfolio.
No wonder he's the richest man in the world now.
Yeah, I know.
But consider the speed with which the so-called electric vehicles are actually, forget taking shape, they're in your face. Electric motorbikes.
Yes.
Here in this country,
yes,
we have companies that are actually doing precisely that, replacing these internal combustion engines and bringing. So
yes,
it really, the future is with us.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So tech stocks, obviously, there'll be a lot more requirement for tech stocks. So tech stocks like Tesla making electric vehicles, Internet of Things. So you're looking at chip makers like AMD, NVIDIA, those kind of companies. I would advise you to have those in your portfolio. They'll continue. Telecoms companies will continue making money. The internet, internet penetration can only increase, and therefore they can only increase their revenues. Pharmaceutical companies. You have the big 5, the AstraZenecas, the Pfizer, the Johnson & Johnsons. Those are stocks that it's a no-brainer to have in your portfolio. Commodities like gold, they're good to have in your portfolio in case there's a turnaround in the market. They'll always continue to gain in value over time, and because of their scarcity as well as intrinsic value. So those are the top 5 assets.
Yes. I've listened to you. I haven't heard you mention land even once.
You did say that unless land has some kind of added value on it, then it's useless. Right? You want to build something on it, right?
What added value are you talking about?
Build a structure on it.
What added value is there in gold? Okay.
Well, intrinsically, gold can be used for jewelry, so in a sense, it has value in itself.
And land?
Land,
it's a finite commodity. It's not even like
you're
gold.
Building something on it, I think, is what you're
land,
saying.
it is. It is. Are we going to increase our boundaries just because we have more people in Kenya?
You can increase the number of floors that you do agriculture on, for example, on a single piece of land.
Yes, you can. I agree with you completely. Yes. But if you have a growing population such as ours, right?
Yes.
Are you telling me that there's a likelihood that the value of land is likely to dip? If you're talking about investment land, is it a volatile investment by any stretch of any imagination?
No, I'm not disputing. I'm not. Land is still a good investment.
I know I've come out competent.
Yes, I know. You look like you really like your land.
Don't talk to him about his land.
Man has invested in land.
Don't tell him to go and invest in chips
your land
when he's got
land. Your land is safe. You still make money from your land over time.
So what would you advise? I mean, people who are getting started on this right now, because again, it's that folks are really talking about. So, if anything, we've learned lessons in the last 12 months, difficult ones.
Yes.
So, how many, would you advise somebody to have in their portfolio as they are starting? Because you've mentioned quite a few. Diversification. So, what would you say? Start with 3, start with 5, start with 1, what?
All right. So, let's first start with the fact that prioritize 3 things. One, have an above average return on your investment. Okay, inflation rate in Kenya is about 5%. If you're buying rental houses, for example, always ask yourself, what's the rental yield on these houses? All right. So C2, if you build apartments there and you rent them out, ask yourself how much did you buy this land for versus how much you receive in rent per year. Divide that by the other. If you're getting anything less than 5%, you have to really question that investment. All right? So that's the first thing. So just first make sure that the return is making sense.
On your land.
The second thing, prioritize liquidity. I think that's one thing people don't talk enough about.
Right.
All right? I'm sure during COVID, people saw the importance of liquidity. People are looking for money all over the place. Can I sell you my car very quickly because I need this money? But when there's a crisis, you find that everybody else is going through the same thing. So nobody's lending to anyone else and liquidity can dry up. All right, so liquidity is very important, the ability to access your funds. So remember that. Then the third thing is, of course, just get into investments that are sort of minimize the ability to, the risk of losing your capital. Okay, so that's also very important. So those three things. But then all these things can actually be done through advisors, which is why we are really encouraging Kenyans. Before you do some of these things, just walk into an investment bank like ours.
Let me ask the question. Even as you talk about people taking a keener interest in this field of endeavor, what do you do to nurture young investors? Do you have programs that target colleges? Do you have programs that target universities? Have you thought of talking to people who create curriculums in schools when they talk about business education? Do you encourage them to include investment as a topic so that at a very early age people get to understand the importance? Because when you grow up with this understanding, when you are an adult, it is a lot simpler. Do you do this?
You know what? I think probably not enough. And this is something that is something. This is one of the reasons why I'm here. All right.
I'm sending you an invoice.
Yes, please send the invoice. So these are the reasons I'm here. This is something we are trying to create this awareness. The NSE has had an NSE challenge for a long time. All right, and that is one of the ways a lot of people in the universities actually got interested in capital markets. A lot of people who work at SIB were actually part of the initial NSE challenge. So therefore, of course, I agree with you. You know, that exposure has helped some of them to find that this is actually something interesting, and they've taken that as a career choice or having inculcated it in their investment decisions as adults.
Even customer awareness and training. You're talking to people who, like you said, have for a long time grown up knowing that the best investment is a piece of land.
Yes.
And that's why land companies are proliferating, selling 150 by 100 all over the country.
Yes.
So you're trying to convert my mindset from that and telling me that I'm investing into something, I don't know, some tech stock.
Let me explain to you. I'm investing in
company.
a piece of paper with something written on it. And that's supposed to have value.
Yes.
As opposed to land which I can see and walk on.
Yes.
And look at my beacons.
Yes. And look at your beacons. Until the day you have a medical emergency.
And you need to sell it.
And then you realize there was no value there. Sorry, or rather,
oh no,
the value was delayed.
You see, when someone is already an adult, one of the things is their mind is probably just made up about how they want to go about these things.
That's true.
That is the reason why I brought this discussion.
That
because
is very true.
Asking someone to think about investment in a way that's completely diverse from what they're used to is a very difficult task.
That's very true.
Even if it is useful or beneficial.
Yes.
They'll go to the basics. You'll talk investment banking, they'll say stocks. Because that's what they understand.
Very true.
But if you have a larger group of people who understand this, then it is easier for that communication to actually be broad-based. Right now, it isn't.
But you know what I think? Narratives can be changed.
They can.
Just look at how, 5 years ago, if I was leaving Standard Media right now to go back to the office, I'd have been waiting for a taxi guy, or have to call my taxi guy. Everyone had a taxi guy. I have my cab guy. Everybody used to talk like that.
Right.
Now everybody's using Uber. And that was a significant paradigm shift. And look at how short a period that has happened.
True.
Yeah.
That's very
so
true.
narratives can be changed. And I think
they can.
And I think right now Kenyans have advanced so much in so many ways. You know, when you come to the office, you use an Uber, for example. Lunchtime, you order food on some app. When you go home, you're probably just going to stream Netflix or whatever. Things are changing, so we've always felt that even investments can change.
And they've changed fast. Nahashon, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Really appreciate having you. Hoping to have you again soon.
Thank you for having me.
So you can now start teaching us why land is one of the options, but not the only.
It's one of the options.
Which investment?
We are not writing it off as an option.
I'm actually interested in investment where I put 50 shillings and I get 500,000.
Okay.
That's the one I want you to come and tell us.
So you want to now start involving yourself in witchcraft.
Nahashon Mongai is the Executive Director of Global Markets at Standard Investment Bank. Thank you very much for joining us today. See you again soon. Keep it right here, or taking a quick break on KTN Home on SpiceFM. Conversations continue. Good morning.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Japan, biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan?
Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da!
Japan?
Yes!
You will have to first learn Japanese.
No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable.
Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done.
3 minutes to 8 o'clock. The conversation continues right here on Spice FM. So, Charlo Masharia is asking, what's the name of the company that gentleman represents? Good conversation. I've learned a little bit more about Bitcoin. The gentleman represents a company called Standard Investment Bank. What's their Twitter handle?
_invest SIB is what it is, right?
Invest
with SIB. That's what it is. At invest with SIB.
At invest with SIB. That's the Twitter handle. You can follow them and then you can get a lot more information about what they do and how they do it. That's the Standard Investment Bank. Good, interesting conversation about, diversifying your portfolio, not just looking locally, but also looking across the globe and saying how you can take advantage of all that.
I'll say, for sure. I mean, I think it was very clear that there's certain things that maybe we would not have thought about. That you would say, okay, what I can get any kind of profits from or any kind of liquidity from is what is right in front of me without realizing that there are very many options and that you can start with very little. And I think it's always good to hear things like that you know that the very little that you have, you can actually do something with it. And I think that's where a lot of folks are right now, that I don't have that much, but I hope to have much later. And so there's always a place to start.
Indeed. And CT, your land is safe.
Worry not.
Oh, no. I wasn't worried in the very least. All this lovely, lofty talk about bit this and bit the other and Bitcoin is all good and well. But if you ask me, land is secure. Yes, I may not realize cash from it immediately when I need it, but if land, you don't buy land so that you can liquidate it. You buy it so that you can keep it and so that its value can increase for the future.
But you know that other thing you were talking about, there's a way. See me later.
Which other thing?
Of 50,000 to $1 million.
No, that one I like.
Talk to Ndo.
No, 50 bob, because
50
according
bob.
to what National was telling us, there's a way in which they understand that the word here is algorithm, and you work these things out. So the one I want specifically, I put 50 bob, and then after 1 month, $500,000. That one.
Keep it right here for more conversations. In the next hour, we talk about addressing the mental health challenges of Kenya and Kenyans. It's now 8 o'clock. Good morning.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay, so the commuter train is on its way, and it had stalled before, but now it's all right. So the commuters are on their way. Let's hope that it gets where it's going. That would be great. Avoid Juja Road this morning, Kabisa, if you can, because it seems like everybody is on Juja Road today. Everybody who spilled over from Mombasa Road, spilled over from Thika Road, now is on Juja Road. So there's a problem now getting into the city. It's going to take some time to do that. Pangani Globe issue. That one is as you get off Thika Road, going towards Pangani, out then towards Ngara, onto the Globe Cinema overpass, moving very slowly this morning, coming out of Westlands, Uhuru Highway. So we're looking at Uhuru Highway between Nyayo Stadium roundabout all the way to Westlands. Very slow today. It is Friday. Things are already going haywire, but let's hope that it settles down in a bit. If you're stuck somewhere, do let us know. We'll see what we can do in terms of spreading information. I have to remind you again, if you're in Mombasa trying to get on the ferry, either at Mtongwe or Likoni, please use M-Pesa. They will not allow you with cash. And then it's going to cause traffic, and then we'll not be happy, and then it will be a sport Friday. Okay, SpiceFM KE, talk to us on Twitter. Text on 40127. Let's keep it moving this Friday.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
2.5 minutes after 8 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It is The Situation Room, third hour of the show. Now we're getting into it. We'll be here until 10 o'clock. We are still live on KTN Home, and we're live on SpiceFM and online. Let's begin the hour with the day's proverb. CT.
The one nearest to the enemy is the leader.
The one nearest to the enemy is the leader.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is looking at it from the point of if it's an army advancing towards the
leading
enemy,
from the front.
You lead from the front.
Mm-hmm.
So you're near the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
The other way around, we can also say the one nearest to the leader
is the enemy. Well, a Bible-thumping individual like yourself immediately thinks of Judas.
Of course.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. But not just Judas, Julius Caesar.
There you go as well.
Too brutal.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those who are closest to you. Kikulacho kinguoni mwako.
Yes.
But this is not the proverb of the day.
What?
What?
Ki what?
No, don't worry.
We will explain it later after the show. Kikulacho. What you eat, Cho.
Is inside your clothes.
Yes.
The body inside the clothes. Let's talk about our mental health, right?
Yes,
let's.
Yes. You know, if you listen to our conversations, I'm listening. I would think that it's good to actually get into mental health because
I agree.
You agree?
Yeah.
Yes, because it will be brought into question the things that we are saying here.
Right, right.
Mental health.
Right.
Carry on, Eric.
A number of things have emerged in the country in the last number of years, okay? And it got to a point where we saw the government itself actually realize that there's something happening and even form a task force to look at the mental health and well-being of and the happiness of the Kenyans. This task force worked, and it was comprised of some senior psychiatrists and people who are experts in this field. And then they came up with a report, and they presented the report to the Ministry of Health. Number one recommendation was we are not doing well. And they said, in fact, government should declare this a national disaster. And then we've also seen a number of things that are happening in the society, and you're wondering, okay, so what is it? It's like an expression of anger that is extreme, where a twin goes and kills his brother because of alleged love triangle. Live next to one another, This one feels like you've taken over my girlfriend, and goes and kills. So we are seeing incidences of extreme violence happening in the country. We're also seeing incidences where people seem really to be suffering and they're feeling the pressure. COVID-19 exacerbated this. Livelihoods affected, things change, and you're waking up and suddenly you don't have a source of income, and yet you still have to live your life. And we've been having the conversation on what is happening and what options do people have. So today, let's focus on those options. We had a conversation with Dr. Frank Jenka, who chaired that task force, and he told us what they've been doing. He told us what they saw around the country. You're finding people queuing at a private or public hospital. They think that they are suffering from something, but when an expert just talks to them, the expert realizes this person, there's a mental health issue. That it could be what is bringing them to the hospital. The person doesn't know. And this is a very high percentage of Kenyans. So we're going to have a conversation now with a clinical psychologist. This is Diana Wache of Machi Consult. Thank you very much for joining us, Diana.
Thank you for hosting me.
Welcome to the Situation Room. That is called the hot seat, but as you can see, it's not hot, right? It's just warm enough.
It's just warm enough. Perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect for you to enjoy this.
Yes. Yeah.
I think let's start with the definitions. Who is a psychologist and who's a psychiatrist?
Okay, in my practice, a psychiatrist, most of the time, is the one who gives medication to patients who have mental illness. So this will require someone who has severe symptoms, or what we call psychotic disorders. For example, someone who has schizophrenia or severe bipolar. So these are the kinds of people who require medication. So a psychiatrist in this country will be the one to give medication to such people. And a psychologist, on the other hand, uses different therapy techniques to offer therapy. So most of the time in my profession, as for me, for example, a psychologist is more of a talk therapy. So we use different kinds of therapy techniques. For example, one called cognitive behavior therapy or interpersonal therapy. Basically different types of theories on how, or treatment methods, but mostly it will encompass talking to people and finding out what exactly is going on with them and finding solutions. And when we think about psychologists, it's not more of the person telling you what to do, the expert telling you what to do. This person will walk with you through the journey, telling you for you to come up with solutions, help you to come up with solutions that is going to help you in the long run. So it's not to tell you do this or do that. That is not what psychologists do. Mostly is to walk with this person through the journey, telling them, okay, these are the issues you're facing. What are the other alternatives you can come up with, or the coping strategies that you can implement to make yourself feel better. So mental health, number one, is about effort and it's about attitude. And one of the reasons, yes, for severe cases of people who want to commit suicide, they may need involuntary hospitalization. That is what happens. But most of the time when a person comes to a psychologist is to say, I need help me. And these are the issues I'm suffering from. So help me come up with solutions. These are my problems. Help me. Let's work together for us to come up with solutions. So that's what the main difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist is. And ideally, in a treatment method for severe symptoms, for severe cases, one will go to a psychiatrist first, get medication. When the symptoms subside is when they seek the help of a psychologist to work with them.
Is there an embracing of this, if we want to look at it in this country and maybe some of the countries on this continent? Is there an adequate embracing of these services that are available to people when it comes to psychology and even psychiatry, to come and say, I have a problem, and to seek out the services of a psychologist? Because I think about people that I know who live in other countries, and everybody has a therapist.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of the things you do. You do your grocery shopping, you take your dog to the vet, you book an appointment with your therapist.
Yeah.
It doesn't really happen here. So is there an embracing of this to say that we can have a chat about what's really going on mentally?
I will say 5 years from now, 10 years from now, things were a bit different. But right now we're seeing progress of people saying, yes, I need help and I need to seek therapy. There are a couple of ways to look at it. One is the availability of these healthcare professions, people who are experts and who can offer help. There are very few in this country. Actually, people who are qualified to offer the services. And number two is also about are people able to afford? Yeah, we talk about affordability. It will say if you have someone who has a mental illness and wants to seek help, but who's suffering and saying, do I buy food? Do I buy clothing, or do I buy contribute towards school fees of the kids, or do I see a therapist? So it's about what one feels is most important. Of course, also is the acceptance of seeing the mental illness or mental health as a big deal. People will say, "Oh, I have a headache, so let me go buy Panadol or buy Maramoja," but they don't see mental health because it's not something visible, right? It's more of behavior and what happens to our feelings and our thought process. So it becomes more of not an important or considered important, but what's most considered important is the basic needs. If we have a country, for example, in Europe or other countries, people will say they're doing well financially, so they'll be able to somewhat afford mental health. Yeah. But here, it's more about can I afford food? Can I afford the basic needs? The competing needs. I can't afford the basic needs, so why will I prioritize mental health? So let me just go to the bar and drink.
Let me deal with this.
Yes, let me deal with it. Not realizing you're just exacerbating your symptoms. So now you're just not dealing with your feelings of hopelessness and sadness, but now you're also dealing with your drug abuse or drug addiction that has just set in. Right. So all these factors that come into play when we talk about going to seek therapy.
If I heard you right, 5-10 years prior, this did not seem to be a conversation that took center stage. Now it does. By extension, then we could argue that in the next 5 to 10 years, it will increase.
For sure, yes, it will.
Why are we so certain that it will increase, and what are the factors that are contributing to this increase, in your opinion?
In my opinion, it's we become more accepting of mental health conditions, or we become more aware that there's something called depression, there's something called bipolar, there's something called a psychologist or a counselor. So all these conversations going on in different forums or different platforms are the ones who are contributing to people saying, yes, there's something called depression, there's something called feelings of sadness, hopelessness, and also the media has contributed towards making that possible, or making people more accepting of what's going on. So it's the different platforms that we use, more information that is out there. And also the president, when he came out and said, yes, making it very personal and saying, this affects me as a husband, a grandfather, a husband. So it makes it more real, more something that we can identify with as we go along. So,
would you say that the breakdown of known societal norms, movement of people from known rural settings to urban settings, alienation that comes with living in urban settings, have also contributed to this?
For sure. You see, when we look at our background, we had factors that helped us to deal with our issues. You had your aunties, you had your uncles, you had your grandparents, you had your cousins around you to talk about what was going on with you. You never felt like you're alone. So now this urban setting, all of a sudden, it's about rush to go to work, to take your kids to school, to do 1, 2, 3, and forgetting yourself. There's no structure. The family structure, as we know, as it was before, helped us in dealing with our mental issues. But now it does not support that, because the father is busy running to look for money to do his business. The mother is busy. The kids are left on their own. And what do they have? They have social media. So there's that strong structural or family support in people recognizing or just that's why it's one of the things that has contributed to a lot of illnesses, mental illnesses, because there's no that the structure is becoming weak as we
So
we
are
go
you
along.
saying that human beings at their very core
Yeah.
are relational creatures? They thrive best when they have others with whom they relate, and a support system that is based on other human beings around them. That in the absence of this, their minds are developing abnormalities, which end up being illnesses or which are manifested in deviant behavior and so forth.
Yes.
Is this what we're saying?
Yes, that's what we're saying. We are saying actually one of the ways of protecting oneself from mental illness or helping through the process of having a mental illness is to have a strong social support. We are all social beings and we need people around us, but also depends on what kind of people you have around you.
Very important, I'd say.
Yeah, very important.
We have a problem now.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't think we can run away from it. People would like to maybe play it down and say, okay, it's not so bad. Maybe it's just being reported more, but those issues, but we have a problem. The every day we sit in this room and we go through the stories, and there has not been a day, and I counted, in the last 43 days, there has not been a day that there has not been an incidence of somebody taking the option of taking another life to solve a problem.
Yes.
43 days. So I can imagine if that is what is being reported, that there are many more incidences of the same.
For sure.
They've become more violent as we've gone along. We've seen some terrible, terrible things happening. And it would be that people have resorted to violence. People have resorted to taking lives. And we're not just talking about assault anymore. Now we're talking about murder to solve a problem. Women, mothers are killing their children because they cannot deal with the frustrations that comes about because of financial incapability. We have relational issues and two people fighting over one lover, and one decides to take the life of his twin brother. An example we've seen this morning. What is this showing us? And even before yesterday, we had by-elections around the country, people resorting to violence, carrying weapons to an election, because that would be the solution to solve to an issue that you have. What are we seeing? Is this not a problem that we are having right now? And what can we really, really start to do to chip away at these issues?
It's first to have conversations like this, very important, so that more and more people know what to create that mental health awareness, very, very key. And I think we always say this, but we talk this at this level, but how about the people in the villages?
Exactly.
Yeah. But people don't know because they also don't have support. So one of the ways that that is very important is because at that level also there's religious institutions, people who go to churches or people who go to mosques. Why are we not able to train individuals, leaders, religious leaders, in just having a bit of counseling skills, which is important, so that people can have a gateway on how they're going to have someone to talk to. We don't have that. And then we really need to emphasize on this mental health awareness. It's very, 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 very key. And we need to create platforms where people are able to talk about it. But also even in the media, how do we report? Are we glamorizing violence? How are we reporting when you talk about people being murdered or someone murdering each other? What other solutions, other than saying, yes, this has happened, what solutions are we offering? Are we offering and saying these are the helplines that you need to go to? These are the people, these are the places where you can go to, institutions which are set up where you can go and get help. I don't think, to be honest, we do that. We
But
always
Anna,
say,
even before we get to institutions,
yes.
I mean, let me pose this question. Mental health, even if we did everything that we are suggesting here, how exactly do we as a society view mental health? I'm suggesting, the stigma attached to mental health is perhaps the biggest block to anything that can be considered remedial, with the view to ensuring that, one, it's tackled as it should, and that people are accepting, one, of acknowledging what it is so that you can actually find a solution to it.
Yes.
How do you get people to destigmatize mental health? Because you mentioned mental health, madness.
But you see, that's the extreme. That's the thing. There's mental health, and then what we call psychotic disorders. psychotic disorders, what we think about mental health is about psychotic disorders.
Yes.
Mental health will encompass how you feel about yourself, your self-awareness, what's going on with you, are you okay, are you feeling sad, problems? How do you solve problems, what are your coping strategies, all those things are the ones that encompass mental health. But when you think about mental health, ask someone walking in the streets of Nairobi, mental health, or they hear a counselor or a psychologist, the first thing is, a crazy person,
Yep.
you're crazy, but
I'm not mad.
I'm not mad.
Why do
I don't need help. You know, I don't need help.
But
So-
even before we get to mental health, Diana, even
Yes.
when it comes to illnesses, we are a society that is very good at self-diagnosing and also self-medicating.
Yes.
Yes, because if the symptom is pain, you know what to do. You go and look for something which relieves pain. And someone will happily tell you, I had this pain on the neck on the right side, and I went and bought, and they tell you what they bought, and now I feel better.
Yeah.
Okay? But so long as mental health and stigma are, should we say, considered to be one and the same thing, the stigma attached to the one and the same thing, do you really think we'll ever get to the bottom of dealing with mental health issues?
I think we can, but it will take a long time for us to
Why?
get there.
Why must it take a long time?
Because we are not accepting of the reality as is.
And how do we get to be more accepting?
Talking about it. And we have more people. It's good when we have these days more men and more women coming out and saying, I was abused. This is what happened to me. We need to keep those conversations going because to give it a human face.
Okay.
Yeah. We need to give it a human face.
As a clinical psychologist,
Yes.
you have a body that governs your activities, isn't it?
Yes.
Union, conglomeration of clinical psychologists and what have you. What program do you have to ensure that just very basic counseling training is disseminated, not just to people within towns, but to rural areas? Let me explain why I'm asking this. There is no place in this country which doesn't have a mental health, a health facility.
Yes.
And people come to health facilities. So within those units, do you have a plan, a program which is in the making, has begun, so that you afford this basic training to people? Because people who normally come to hospital with other health needs may also have mental health issues which they don't talk about.
Yeah.
Do you have such a program?
Different individuals
I
have their
apologize
own programs.
if this is a difficult question.
No, it's not. I'll answer to the best of my knowledge.
Yes.
So many people have, many psychologists or many individuals in the healthcare, we have so many mental health advocates who've taken upon themselves to do that job. But also many NGOs have also come up with programs, mentorship programs, ETC, or mental health psychological support, where they're able to give such support to people at the grassroots level. But also all this requires funding. Yeah, it requires funding. But where is this funding coming from?
Do you know where I'm going with this?
Yes.
When we train health workers, whatever cadre, do we have units within their training that focus on counseling, psychology? Do we have it in medicine for clinical officers, for nurses? Do we have it? And if it's one unit, is that one unit adequate? Or should be more units? Meaning, when you unleash health workers into the workplace, should we not have equipped them with this basic knowledge so that even as they go about their business,
they can pinpoint when
And they can
see these
identify
issues,
and
they
then
can
refer.
identify when they say there's a problem here. And maybe I can just piggyback on that question.
Yeah.
Because the statistics that we saw from this super PAC for mental health in the country was staggering. 1 out of every 3 individuals in this country, if you sat with them and had a conversation, they would be skewed towards having a mental imbalance or a mental health problem. 1/3 of the population, that's huge.
That's true.
So shouldn't there be more deliberate action for things like this, for example, that anybody who is coming into contact with anyone, any potential patient, should actually have the basic in terms of training to be able to identify an issue that is going towards mental health when they see it, to say, okay, this one I need to refer, this one I need to refer. Because what do we have? We have people, 1/3 of the population walking around with a problem, and then we end up with the stories that we are seeing of the grotesque manner in which people are solving their problems. Meanwhile, we've seen the identifiers a long time ago.
Yeah. I agree with you. There's definitely a big need for us to offer training at that level. I don't know how much of it is happening, And as you're saying, also already these clinicians or people who mental health workers at that level, at this grassroots level, I don't think they have sufficient skills to offer, because also it's a specific field. It's not, I mean, treating mental health is not something anyone can do. The same way, for example, you say if you have a toothache, you can't go to a general doctor or someone, you have to go to a dentist, right? Sure. But there are certain things that we can do. For example, first aid and psychological first aid that we can train people on, health workers. We can also offer basic counseling skills for us to identify, one, not just the treatment itself, but also the diagnosis. Because there's a big assumption, for example, even in our own homes, when someone is depressed, what are the symptoms? Do we know even some of those symptoms? We just assume someone who's sleeping the whole day is a lazy person. Yeah.
It's teenagers.
Yeah. They say this one is a lazy person. Or someone all of a sudden eating too much is okay, maybe she just has too much appetite.
Gluttonous person.
Yeah.
Let's look at those signals, okay? Because now we want to address what is it that we can do to start addressing our mental health challenges. How do we identify? How can I identify that from myself and somebody else that I'm dealing with? We're having a conversation with Diana Watcher. She's a clinical psychologist. Addressing Kenya's mental health challenges is our conversation this hour. Let's take a break at 26 minutes after 8. We'll be back shortly. KTN Home, SpiceFM, and online.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources, yet we have real challenges in this country?
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is
Japan biotechnology. Yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan?
Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da!
Japan? Yes! You will have to first learn Japanese.
No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable.
Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
The weather
partly
with
sunny conditions
SpiceFM.
in Nairobi at 19. Highs of 27 and lows of 16. It's partly sunny in Nyeri at 16. Highs of 25. We're looking at highs of 27 in Nakuru today. Mostly sunny conditions now. It's sunny in Eldoret at 17. We'll see highs of 25. 30 the high in Kisumu today. The sun is out in all her glory as it is in Kakamega. 22. Highs of 31. Partly sunny conditions in Mombasa. 33 the high and lows of 26. We're also looking at sunny conditions in Malindi with highs of 31 today. It's cloudy in Kampala. Highs of 27 and lows of 20. 32 in Dar es Salaam is what the high will be. It's mostly cloudy now at 29. 16 degrees and sunny conditions in Johannesburg, highs of 26. We'll look at highs of 33 in Lagos. It's partly cloudy, mostly sunny in Kinshasa at 25. We'll see highs of 32 and lows of 24.
SpiceFM. Nyeri.
An hour and a half from Bellevue to Nyayo Stadium roundabout today. It's absolutely crazy, guys. And this is what it's taking for most people who left home as early as 6:30. Just getting into the CBD. It's looking like something on Mombasa Road today. This one, you're just going to have to sit through. There's nothing we can do, knowing that the construction is contributing to this quite some. All right, let's look around Westlands, where that construction is also taking place. It's going to take some time also. As you get past Kangemi outbound, there's some traffic. Also inbound, use the Red Hill bypass. Probably a surer bet to get into the city much quicker. Coming off Langata Road and Gong Road is looking pretty good today. Other roads within the city, not too bad. Coming off Jogger Road, there is that construction that's taking place right around St. Stephen's, the turn off towards Buruburu. So we understand that Jogger Road is getting close to some of those circles of hell that we've heard about earlier this week. But we'll take it all in stride. SpiceFM KE talk to us through the morning. Let's see how you will be able to move through. If there's an incident or accident, let us know. We'll spread the word as well. Find a good route, tell us that too. Text 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
It's
Nairobi.
29 minutes to 9 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It is the Situation Room, broadcasting on Spice FM, online, Spice FM KE, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. And we are on TV as well. Passing on the radio experience onto TV. Having a conversation this morning. In the studio every morning is CT Muga, Ndu Oko, Eric Latif, and our guest this hour is Diana Wache. She is a clinical psychologist. We are addressing Kenya's mental health challenges. As we continue the conversation, let's go to the phone lines. Karaoke in Lavington would like to chime in. Good morning, Karaoke.
Yeah, good morning, Ndu, CT, and Eric. I've become one of your prolific callers in the morning.
Very good.
And we are delighted.
Very good.
Yeah, I hope you guys don't mind, but I think that's a very strong endorsement of the enlightenment that we derive from your show. I think you guys are doing an amazing job.
Asante sana. Karaoke, say hello to Diana.
Hi Diana.
Good morning, Karaoke.
Yeah, so...
Karaoke, I have to ask this. When you said hello to us, it was sort of voice. Guys, it's good to see you. Then Diana, hi Diana. Why that high-pitched voice when greeting Diana?
She's the guest.
No, it's out of guilt. I felt bad, but I probably felt that I neglected her. That is why.
Please carry on. Yes.
I had to compensate.
Yes.
With high-pitched greeting. I think it was around 20 years ago. In an in-studio TV interview that I listened keenly to Professor Gatere. I don't know whether he's still alive.
No.
He was a seasoned psychiatrist, probably a contemporary of Njenga, Dr. Frank Njenga. And
he was actually older than Njenga.
Yeah, I wouldn't disbelieve that. But there's something that he said that was so profound that I cannot forget 20 plus, probably 20 years later. He said that in Kenya we have a problem. And he cited some examples. He said there's loud music in matatus, there's loud music in bars. And this is what he further said. He said, when you see people in a matatu that's playing loud music, they're probably nudging their head. I can't remember how he put it, but there are people who are enthusiastically, following the music and they like it. He said those are not normal human beings. They are suffering from mental health. He further said that the same thing when you find people in bars that are playing very loud music and they like it. He said that those are people who need mental health solutions. And these are social things that we see. These are a problem that is there with us to this day. And I remember he also said that when you're walking and the rain is gushing down at you, and you're just walking, you're not even running. He said it's not normal. Anyway, that's a side comment. Now to my question. Diana, I think you mentioned that you have some sort of caucus or a lobbying or lobbyist kind of organization. Are these things, do you see these things as being breeding grounds or things, circumstances that exacerbate mental health problems in Kenya? Are you lobbying maybe the Public Health Department or NEMA or whatever the government authority is? Because they're not going away. And since that time when I listened to Professor Gataire, even every time a matatu pulls over in traffic next to me and it's playing loud music, I always remember what Professor Gataire said, and I tell my son, you know, these people, I'm told when this music makes you mad or it's not good for your health. And so the question is, as clinical psychologists or as mental health practitioners, whether clinical psychologists or otherwise, are you contemplating, or is it something that you can take on and lobby with the Public Health Department? Because actually some of those things are not legal. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kariuki. So before you answer that, let's also hear from Sami in Vihiga. Sami, good morning.
Morning to you, Eric.
Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you. Now, mine was more of a comment. Somebody asked about some of these services coming to Mashinani.
Yes.
I would like to commend an organization called Serene. They've actually brought, in fact, I'm a student of advanced psychology myself. Advanced diploma in psychology, I mean. And they've brought these courses down to Mashinani. I'm in a place called Savakali. And we have lessons every 2 days a month for the next 18 months.
All right.
So I'd like to recommend them because I know there's something that is being done.
So this is a non-governmental organization.
Yes, it is it's a mental organization. It deals with psychology.
I see.
Yes. Yeah, so I know they are doing something. It's just that the cost would be a bit higher if Daktari could maybe in one of their forums ask the government to chip in. Because what Serene is doing, it is subsidizing for us. But even after subsidizing, we are paying an amount of around 60,000.
Wow.
Yeah, so
it's expensive to train.
Yes, it is actually expensive to train because I'm told if I was to go for a full course, it would cost me around 200,000, 980 to 200,000 shillings. Yeah, so Serene has done it for us, and actually it has really helped us a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sami. Thank you for sharing that experience. Yeah. So, Diana, do you have an association of clinical psychologists or experts in mental health? And what programs do you have? And also then you can respond to that one by Sami and Kariuki's earlier question.
There is an association, Kenya Psychological Association, and also there's the Kenya Counselors Association that is talking about mental issues in different forums. And for us, it's also a young association that is growing. We recently had a meeting about putting all these mental health professions to come together and to offer solutions. So that is ongoing. But it's not, I will not say it's an active, really active association that has come together to address issues. But I know many people or many psychologists and counselors have taken upon themselves using different forums and different platforms to talk about creating mental health awareness. Going back to Kariuki's question, I don't think there's one person or there's an association that has gone to NEMA to complain about this. But remember, at the end of the day, also it's about choice. Yeah, it's about when you talk about human rights and freedoms, you can also choose not to get into that matter. I don't think you're forced to getting into one. So it's a matter of choice. So people choose. You can decide whether you want to get into that or not. But I do value silence, even for my own
mental
sanity.
well-being.
Very, very important to have that moment of quiet because it gives you that moment of reflection and seeing where you've been, where you are and where you're going. So things like meditation, things like prayers are very important. So we need that silence. I don't know how possible it is. For some of us, maybe we can't afford to have that time where you say, I need space to myself. But honestly, if you have to be intentional. You can't say you'll miss 10 minutes or 15 minutes in a day where you're just by yourself contemplating about your life, really.
There's a very steep price that we are paying for modernization. Why I'm saying it's steep, it's because with modernization, you also have a direct assault on what we call our normal cultures and the way in which we do things. There's a phrase that comes to mind, it's called cognitive dissonance.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
A direct conflict that arises, and most people are actually influenced by it, but don't even know that they're influenced by it. The way you think, the way you do things, and what's happening around you, and your ability to deal with all this. I'm putting it as simply as I can. Now, think of a student who goes to university with the idea that when they graduate, they will have a degree, and with the degree, they'll get a job. No job. Conflict. Parents who spent money, sold cows, sold land so that the child can be educated with the expectation that when this child then completes the education and can work, they will now be able to support. No support coming through. Conflict. Then there'll be other children who may need to go through school, resources are now depleted. Then you come into town looking for a job and you get a job, but it isn't adequate to meet your needs. I'm simply talking about a vicious cycle that doesn't seem to end. Because there was a time when it was more or less a guarantee. You went to university, you got a job. Or there was something you were able to do. The generation I belong to, jobs looked for you. You didn't actually look for a job. Some of us had letters of employment before you even finished your exams at the university. There's a letter telling you where it is you're going to work. That went a long time ago. It's like a pipe dream. So now, when you have a society where this is on the increase, you have more people who are educated, you have high expectations, you have social media that even hypes it, so that not everybody has moderate or realistic expectations. Everybody has high expectations. There'll be a conflict.
From the get-go.
There'll be a conflict. And this conflict brings about a certain amount of pressure to the mind.
Yeah.
So all these things that we're talking about, it's like they line up.
Yeah.
It's a question of which one comes first.
My
now,
goodness.
as clinical psychologists, as mental health specialists, when you look at this and you understand this, what do you suggest and advise that we do from a policy perspective, from government perspective, so that it doesn't just become something that a group meets, talks about, and then the findings are kept somewhere in a locker, but that it is part of our day-to-day
It's a continuous conversation and action.
Yes, how?
As you respond to that, also let's hear from Timothy, who's calling in from Muranga. Timothy, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
My name is Timothy.
Yes.
And I'm in the medical field. I'm a dental surgeon myself, so I was really happy when an example of a today could be given. Yeah, but nonetheless, my opinion is that for mental health, we must remove the stigma around it. And one of the ways is we need to do a lot of awareness in our public. We've had very many programs, especially in the medical field, for carers, where we pick out medical people or doctors who are in tough situations, tough mental health situations, and we see how we can improve that. And the reality is, even carers suffer from what we think is just for the other person. And my experience has been that we must remove the stigma. And there's a lot of onus on government in terms of how we run our affairs as a society. And all the way from a society that we think enjoy a good index of happiness and subsequently enjoy good mental health, we derive that, or that is a derivative of how their governments run their affairs. All the way from education that has been taken care of, access to good and quality healthcare, they enjoy good security, they generally live in an environment that has good physical discipline, all the way from government, their financial institutions, and even in their homes. And I was really happy in the earlier discussion where we had about investment. And all that tied up together, a society generally will enjoy good quality mental health.
Yeah.
And the conversation that you're running should have a sequel to it. And you should be a champion for creating awareness for good mental health so that we remove the stigma around it.
Thank you very much, Timothy.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we hear you. Yep, so we're taking your call, 0719-012-600. Having a conversation with Diana Wache. She's a clinical psychologist with Machi Consult. We are addressing Kenya's mental health challenges. Another caller on the line. Lincoln, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Okay, nice to see you. Your situation looks very therapeutic.
It is, believe me.
You're very kind, sir.
No, honestly. So, okay, I'm very serious because I'm a counselor.
Okay.
And I think the discussion you're having is very interesting, very timely, but also very challenging. The reason is that I'm a very strong believer in what it now needs to be what we call the community mental health services. Unfortunately, our training and policy direction in this country is focusing more on very clinical staff in the field of psychology. And current research shows that probably very few people need clinical interventions. So from the question that I was asked, because there is a series of issues that are causing a lot of stress, a lot of actually negative mental health outcomes.
Yeah.
The question would be, why would we not have policies that advocate for community-based mental health interventions?
Yeah.
Just like we train people how to do micro-enterprise stuff, train non-mental health people to do mental health work. And I'm saying that there's a lot of research now, some of it I've been involved in, establishing institutions that actually make sense for people right in the village who never have a chance to see a therapist or a counselor.
Yeah.
And this needs to be done in the local language. For example, if I'm a Kikuyu, I'll most likely be depressed or stressed from my cultural perspective.
Yeah.
So if I borrow an intervention from US or Europe and come and try to help this guy who is depressed from his cultural perspective, we will never get it.
Right.
And that's my greatest worry. So
Can I ask you a question, sir?
Please do.
I'm delighted to hear that you practice counseling. How effective is it in the area that you ply your trade, and how acceptable is it?
Well, for me, I believe it's very acceptable, very effective, and we have very good results. Because we do not use a clinical approach to psychological problems that people experience. We actually now evidence that non-mental health people who are trained what we call apprenticeship psychological approaches can be able to provide help and treatment to someone who has depression. Let me give an example. We found that in the Luo language, somebody who is depressed, suffering from something called, what do they call it? Okay, let me tell you from Uganda what I remember. Somebody from depression, in the Luganda language, they called it okwechawa. Okwechawa is self-hatred.
Okay.
You cannot treat someone who has self-hatred with a clinical intervention that says you are depressed because you don't have food, you don't have money, you need to deal with self-hatred. The Lu people called it paromangeng. Paromangeng is equivalent to depression in that community. How do you help that person? A villager in that community can be trained to respond to paromangeng in that particular situation. But we do not have these interventions in policy. We do not have these interventions in our training institutions, and therefore not equipping the communities with mental health skills that can help their own people without waiting for someone to have a PhD in psychology.
To come and deal with them. Lincoln, thank you very much for this contribution.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And
No,
keep
thank you
going.
very much, sir.
Asante. Senator Sylvia Kasanga, good morning.
Good morning, Eric. How are you today?
Very well, thank you.
Nduko.
Good morning, Ndu.
I've given our company name.
Yes.
Yes, it's clear.
called
It's by
ownership. From the very beginning, Mheshimiwa, you determined that you should belong to that community. Thank you.
Avisa, thank you. Eric, I want to appreciate this conversation so much. I try to catch your conversations every morning.
Right.
And as always, and like we said last time, the fact that you're giving this conversation, mental health, a platform is one of the most beautiful things. And I want to thank Diana also for the insights that she's giving Kenyans. And the last caller who spoke is one of the things that we must focus on. We are not going to be able to tackle mental health without a community-based approach. Because of the different communities we have, our different cultural backgrounds, our different languages, like he said, we all define different issues differently. And therefore, and that is why some of our campaigns, even at Parliament, we are looking at a community-based approach. And there's no any other way of tackling it, decisively and very well. And the second thing Diana said that I appreciate is the integration. And I think, CT, you posed a question of how to integrate mental health with the healthcare system. And that is very critical, that every hospital, level 1, level 2, level 3 going on, should have a battalion of mental health practitioners who work alongside other physical healthcare workers, so that somebody can get like a wholesome approach to healthcare. And then lastly is the stigma. Stigma still remains the biggest issue. And I'll tell you what we've done here in Parliament. Of course, besides sponsoring the bill, and the bill, I'm happy, is back in Parliament again, is the issue of fighting stigma. We've gone ahead and rolled out a campaign we are calling out Fungua Roho campaign. And this is using parliamentarians, because first we want the parliamentarians themselves as representatives of people to understand and be aware on what is mental health. Then we are going a little further and asking them, now that you know, we need you to have this conversation with your people from whichever corner of the country that you have. So we have a series of trainings of our leaders that we are conducting. And we are then tasking them to go out. And then we'll look at ways of doing translations in different languages, so that we can begin to have, community-based conversations, started off with leaders or continued with leaders, or leaders in support with all the other organizations that have been working around the mental health. As you know, there are lots of organizations that have been working around mental health. And most of our practitioners, like the clinic officers, like you've heard, and psychologists, a lot of them work in the community. And it's time now we amplify all this, and all this should now come together so that we push the government now to do what it needs to do, which is set up now the policies, proper policies, and of course the legislation, and most importantly is the funding of mental health. And I want to report here that at least we are happy this conversation is now happening at the ministry level. We are having conversations now with the ministry, the Directorate of Mental Health, to look into issues of funding, to introduce them into the bill, which is now going to flow without a hitch, because the hitch we had has been sorted out. So very soon, God willing and inshallah, we are going to have a bill. But besides the bill, the operationalization of it requires county governments, it requires all the practitioners, and it requires this awareness conversation to keep continuing. And I really want to thank SpiceFM for giving this conversation.
Mheshimiwa, may I add to your conversation? Thank you so much for everything you've said. May I suggest that the committee you belong to and those who make these decisions on our behalf also consider utilizing already available resources. One of the things that HIV did, it unleashed upon the population, especially in areas where HIV prevalence was high, very many people who were trained in counseling. Very, very many. Now, these are people who are underutilized because people feel that HIV is under control, people are managing it, but the personnel exist.
That's right.
And the funding for training them existed. That training doesn't disappear simply because the need for it is not as high as it once was. So perhaps even as we come up with these new ideas, utilizing already available resources, Even when it comes to this issue of vaccines and the problems people have around it, once someone is trained in counseling, believe me, all you need is to tweak that counseling to the specific area that you want. Say, whether it is vaccine, whether it is childbirth, believe me, just tweak it, and that person will be able to offer the counseling services that are required.
I agree with you, CT, completely. And in fact, this is something we've also had a conversation around, because the issue of awareness requires the sort of network that HIV counseling centers had. So it is easy to plug in, and that also requires, of course, the ministry now to have that kind of goodwill, and we shall definitely push for it. But thank you for that comment.
And we thank you. And we thank you as well, Senator Sylvia Kasanga, for championing the matter and the cause of mental health, and for all the work that you're doing. Thank you for calling in.
Asante, God bless you all.
Thank you.
God bless you too.
You too.
5 minutes to 9 o'clock. Let's take a break on KTN Home, and we come back and conclude our conversation with Diana Wache. She is a clinical psychologist. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. You can tune in to SpiceFM wherever you are. 94.4 Nairobi, Mombasa it's 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.0 in Nakuru, 96.7 in Eldoret, 90.9 in Nyeri, and Malindi it's 97.7.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Japan, biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan?
Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da!
Japan?
Yes!
You will have to first learn Japanese.
No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable.
Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
3.5 minutes to 9 o'clock as we conclude a conversation with clinical psychologist Diana Wache right here in the Situation Room. So Diana, from CT to the callers, it's all about policy and it's all about, shall I call it, devolving the services. How do you take mental health and the work that you do to the grassroots?
First of all, I'd like to appreciate Senator Kasanga for her interventions and for her advocacy all these many months and years. In terms of, I saw even yesterday that the bill is back in Parliament, the mental health bill. So we're happy about that. There's a hearing, and hopefully very soon the bill shall be passed. And then going back to your question, Eric, and all of the many callers who've called in and said, yes, we need to have this devolved function of how we can offer mental health at the grassroots level. There's a very good example in Zimbabwe of a psychiatrist who came up with this brilliant idea of something he called a friendship bench. So what he's done is he's trained health workers and also at the grassroots level, and also different women groups and all these people who can take in that actually even on voluntary basis. They have these benches in parks and different places where you can go, anyone, they'll sit there and wait for someone to come. And they offer that service to them, just brief psychological interventions where they talk to different people, and it has worked. So this is something that can also be replicated in this country if we have different, if we get funding, or if that's actually the intention to do it. It's something that is possible. As we all say, that social support, at the end of the day, it's all about the social support that we give people. It's who we talk to and how we talk to people. And most of the time, people who have mental illness don't even need medication. It's someone to talk to, someone just to hear them. So we need to offer that platform or those spaces. And that friendship bench it's a very good idea that can also work here, that we can also implement. For me, that's one thing that comes to mind in terms of devolving healthcare function.
Even as you say it's using resources that are already available locally. whether it is the senior citizens, whether it is what you call community leaders, opinion leaders, people who ordinarily people would galvanize around, using them to be able to assist in this particular way. Because they are a resource, they are in the local areas, and
they're respected.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Diana, for joining us today. We'll invite you again so we can talk about this a little bit more, right? And even just the issues of identifying when you need to talk to someone, how to reach out to someone, how to, start that conversation with someone. I think those are important conversations that we can have. Asante sana.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much.
And keep it right here. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. We have more conversation coming up in the next hour. In the next hour, we look at what's happening. So are the results out in those places that they were fighting yesterday in the name of voting? We'll find out shortly. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
All right, so traffic still trying on Mombasa Road. Inbound, quite some. Right around Airtel, it moves beyond. Coming up towards General Motors, it slows down quite some. So there's in and outbound traffic on the Mombasa Road. There's in and outbound traffic on Uhuru Highway. There's in and outbound traffic on Thika Road. So it's quite the busy Friday morning, guys. All in all, we need to be careful as you get out onto those streets and watch out for anything might be coming your way. So Jogger Road, we still have the issue there because of that Kura road works that are going on right now. Same thing on getting out of Westlands, headed towards Kangemi. Again, roadworks happening that slows things down just some. All right, so all in all, just know what lies ahead. Let us know if you get stuck somewhere. SpiceFM KE, let us know the situation in your neck of the woods. Text us as well on 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
2 minutes after 9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We thank you very much for tuning in this and every morning. We are live on SpiceFM, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday morning. I was about to say Monday to Friday, then I realized I have just said every weekday morning. Eric, what's up? City Muga, today's proverb.
There's no harm in emphasizing it.
Every weekday morning,
Monday to Friday. Yes, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., Monday to Friday.
In the morning.
In the morning.
So it's a weekday.
A.M.
A.M. The one nearest to the enemy is the leader.
The one nearest to the enemy is the leader.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. So let's talk about the absolute nonsense that we were treated to yesterday in the by-elections that took place. So where were by-elections taking place? They took place in Kabuchai for MP, member of the National Assembly in Kabuchai constituency in Bungoma County. In Kakamega County, there was the election for member of the National Assembly in Matungu County. In Nakuru County, there were two by-elections for MCAs, one in Hell's Gate and the other one in London Ward. In Kisii County, there was one by-election in Kemokamo Ward. In Uasin Gishu County, there was a by-election in Huruma Ward. And in Makueni County, there was a by-election in Kitise Kithuki Civic Administration Ward. In all those areas, we saw varying degrees of some form of dispute. One could say that, by comparison, the by-election that took place in Wasingishu, Huruma Ward, and the by-election that was taking place in Makueni in Kitise Ward was largely peaceful. These are the places: London in Nakuru County, Hell's Gate in Nakuru County, Matungu in Kakamega, Bungoma, Kabuchai constituency in Bungoma, and Kemokama in Kisii. It was anything but. And what is it that we saw? We saw politicians. We had started by having that conversation yesterday. Was this a referendum on the popularity of the national leaders? And in this particular case, we are looking at, if we look at Western, is this a popularity contest between Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula on one hand versus William Ruto, Raila Odinga on the other hand? Is it the same that was playing out in Nakuru? Was it William Ruto's popularity in this particular area versus the others who are supporting of Jubilee and Raila Odinga in this particular case? The same in Kisii. The same what was also happening in Makueni. Was it about Kivutha Kibwana or Wiper leader or William Ruto, whose UDA party? Well, William Ruto is not the leader of UDA, remember, but we all know what we are talking about. Or the UDA party that had a candidate in this by-elections. Incidents of violence started even before we had left the studio. There was already complaints from ODM that was complaining about a former cabinet minister who appeared to have been slapping an IEBC official. Through the day, then, we just started seeing reports coming out of these areas. In London Ward and in Nakuru, we saw members of parliament going there, chief agent insulting a chief insulting chief agent, people going to try and evict electoral officials from doing their job, allegations of bribery, voter intimidation, security agencies being intimidated. We saw the same thing happening in Matungu, in Kabuchai. Incidents that got so bad that at some point, in fact, electoral officials were kicked out of a polling center. Incidents got to a certain degree where a woman electoral official was frog-marched by goons in the presence of police officers, frog-marched by goons because they were saying that they were not running that election the way it should have been conducted. And the words and the manner in which she was being manhandled was direct sexual abuse on this particular electoral official. It was clear that there was abuse. What did we see coming from those that are in charge of the country? Security agencies and administration officials, we have not heard anything from the Minister in charge of Interior. We have not heard anything from the Inspector General of Police. We have not heard anything from the chair of the IEBC at that point. What did we see locally? The regional commanders, the county commissioners, regional commissioners, commanders of the police, nothing. Regional electoral officials, nothing. Party leaders, what did we see? Did you hear anything from Musalia Mudavadi, from Moses Wetangula, from William Ruto, from Raila Odinga, from Uhuru Kenyatta, who were all leaders of the political parties that were participating in this? Nothing. So basically what was happening yesterday was just being touted as Nisiasa, it's hot, it's hotly contested, it's everything else but being condemned. What does it tell us? When you look at that and when you see all the comments that are coming in on social media, people were not just looking at that election, they were looking at August 2022. And they were all thinking, my God, if this is happening, next year is going to be worse.
Definitely. From all indications that is what would happen. If we could get tensions so riled up to the manner in which they were yesterday over by-elections. I mean, and look at the definition of what is a by-election. It's to replace a leader that was there previously, right? That's what was supposed to happen. So you had somebody who was previously there. This is just a makeup, right? Until now you go back to an election for somebody to sit in that position. And tensions were at the level at which they were yesterday. So for me, it shows two things. One, that it's a signal as to how things will be next year. But it is also entrenching the fact that leaders, in the way in which they're behaving today, actually have no care or concern about the people or processes in this country. That you can have an IEBC where its officers are being manhandled being abused, where a process is being completely bastardized and nobody is saying anything about it. That people are being manhandled, violence is being meted upon people. Nobody said anything about it. People used it in jest. People were laughing about it. Leaders themselves were even asking themselves, how can you even try and bring police to come and arrest me? Why would you even arrest me? And then you're telling me that it's politically instigated when you're behaving in the manner in which you're going to behave. A leader is taking 2 million shillings to a polling center, right? And then you have to ask yourself, why were you taking that money there in the first place? What was the purpose? Why would you have such an amount of money at a polling station to then come and accuse your others of then stealing it from you?
And the law
so
prohibits.
it says 2 things to me. And the law, exactly. So it says 2 things to me. That 2022, going the way it's going now, all factors remaining constant, probably even getting worse, that it is going to be terrible. 1. 2, your leaders, the way in which they are carrying themselves today, have shown very clearly that in terms of care and concern for people and processes in this country is below zero. Below zero.
You know, I keep asking myself, how did we get here? We talk about goons as though it's political violence is something that is normal and we should simply just accept it. We even look at political violence as something humorous. And you forget the real element and the damage that what you're seeing is actually doing. Forget just the physical harm that it causes, the impact, the optics of it, and the long-term consequences of this so-called normalization of violence, normalization of, we talk about impunity. You're talking about manifestation. Here we are. It is normal for people to go into an electoral process and expect violence. It is normal because anyone who believes that they have some violence to sell is then welcomed and embraced and enabled to sell that violence that they have. Now it's a question of who can sell more violence, who can mete out more violence, who is more adept. And then there is the issue of the security forces. In this particular instance, apart from lobbing tear gas, you could even argue that they were restrained. Because in other situations, you would bring in the security arm who are known to enforce the violence, called the GSU.
Yep.
If they arrive on the scene, for sure,
they'll flatten the place.
You'll be beaten to smithereens. There's no question about it. And it's something that we expect and we know.
Yep.
When did we normalize all this? Because we've normalized it. It seems normal for people to behave. We're calling it badly. This isn't even a bad behavior. It's atrocious. It is. These are grown-ups who are supposed to be leaders of this country. All those people we're hearing talking about, these are leaders. They've been elected. And that's how they conduct themselves. But now, that, I would argue, we've seen and we expect. But no, expecting is not enough. Something must be done. But now the people who can do something, the chairman of the IEBC and that whole caboodle of IEBC, why do you allow an election that has been marred by such irregularities to continue to its logical conclusion? We had a presidential election overturned on procedure.
Yep.
Is he afraid?
He clearly is.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even use the word afraid. I would use the word incompetent. Because if you have a job that you're supposed to do and you have the mandate, you do have the mandate, and you don't do it, how does fear come into it? Competence is in ensuring that you do what you're supposed to do in the manner that you're supposed to.
Because
if you don't do it, then what are you? Incompetent.
At that very instance, when this ex-cabinet secretary allegedly slapped this official, then there, that was enough.
Yep.
That was enough to say, hold on, folks, what is going on here? These are my officers, and they're supposed to be carrying out a process. The process is what will result in us knowing who has won the election, and then we institute this individual, right? This process already, at that point, is disrespected. It's flawed. Stop it.
Done.
Stop.
If that wasn't enough.
Then you go on. Another one is violently abused. Another one is frog marched. Yeah. Another one is sexually abused. And we are still allowing this thing to go on.
How?
I don't understand.
No.
Why?
We're actually getting now reports from them later in the night. Oh, polling centers have closed. Now we start
We
counting.
start counting.
Counting
You're
what?
continuing. What are you
How?
continuing? What are you doing?
Do you imagine that the people who had actually been harassed throughout the day did not get any further harassment at night?
Mm-hmm.
Those guys are sitting there and they're saying, "No, what are you counting?"
But
If
let
that
me ask
nonsense
you,
was
you have
happening in
already
broad
gone
daylight,
through
with,
trauma.
with all this violence taking place, was voting taking place?
You tell me.
So we were told.
And if okay, what? But you see,
There's absolutely no voting.
the
that was
process
taking
of
place
voting
there.
is supposed to be interfered with. All that drama. Do you really think that process was not interfered with? Of course, it was
It was
not interfered with.
People who would have ordinarily wanted to go ahead and cast their votes.
Would you go there?
See that
Will
kind of
you- will
violence?
you go?
don't turn up. So you've already suppressed people's rights to participate in an election, and you want to call that election legitimate.
How do you?
How? When a huge percentage of the people could not have participated in it because of various factors, including the violence that was happening here, being perpetrated by leaders under the watchful eye of security agencies, how do you call that a legitimate process? They lost it.
You know,
and I see what you're saying, CT. Is the IEBC chairman Wafula Chebukati afraid? Afraid is one thing, but incompetent is clearly glaring at us here today.
Look, you can see the beauty of social media. It's coming to you. You don't even need to look for it.
Yeah.
It's going to come to you, and you can see what's happening now. He, the person who's in charge of election in this country, I'm sure he had even better information. I'm sure the security forces are telling him, look, this is what's happening here. If it rains and people can't come to vote, the process of voting has been interfered with. You can say, look, let's have this another day. But now this one, activities on the ground guarantee that the safety of the voter, the safety of the officials, everyone around is...
And they were deliberately instigated, not natural, like in
Yes,
the
they
event
were.
of rain.
Yes, they were.
These ones were deliberately instigated. Why? They were individuals who thought that they could control a process, circumventing the role of an institution that is politically mandated to do that same thing. Circumventing it. And the person who sits in that position is mum, says nothing about it. You guys, this was a by-election. These were by-elections around the country. What on earth is going to happen? Same IEBC that people have been complaining about. Although we know that in the past, people have complained about this commission because a lot of times, even Eric have alluded to this, that they complain about this commission because it is not doing things according to how they would like it, right? But look at it. Look at it in the context of things in the manner in which they happened yesterday, and then project that towards the next 1 year at a time like this. Whereby if anything goes wrong, basically he's telling you that they're going to throw their hands up and sit and say, let it burn. When it finishes burning, then we will pick up the pieces.
A football match without a referee.
I'm telling you,
We
how
will
will
talk.
it work?
So
How will it work?
let the players decide when there's a
What
foul.
they want to do. And then they decide if you want to kill another one and leave them on
Or
the pitch.
decide whether it's a goal or
continue
it's not a
scoring
goal.
goals.
Yep.
Okay?
And then they'll come to the fourth official and say, by the way, this is who has won.
Yes.
And the fourth official is supposed to say, this is the winner.
Yes.
Then you will
Absolute
accept
crap.
it.
Look,
Let's take a break, City. We'll come back and continue this conversation. At 17 minutes after 9,
no.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. We're looking at what happened in the by-elections around the country yesterday. And the call this morning is simple. There was no election that took place in Kabuchai, in Matungu, in London, and in Hell's Gate. None. IEBC should not even be bothering to announce a result there. No election took place. Period. Good morning. 17 after 9.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
La 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 la. Japan biotechnology. Yes. Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan?
Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da!
Japan?
Yes!
You will have to first learn Japanese.
No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable.
Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
Okay, so Nairobi, the sun seems to have disappeared again. Partly cloudy conditions. We'll see highs of 27 today. It's partly sunny in Nyeri, 18, highs of 25. 27 high in Nakuru, where it's mostly sunny at 20. 20 is also the lucky number in Eldoret. It's sunny, going to highs of 25. 30 the high in Kisumu, sunny conditions at 26. It's also sunny in Kakamega at 27, going to highs of 31 today. The low will be 26 in Mombasa. It's going to be a warm day, going to highs of 33. 31 also will be the high. In Malindi. It's mostly cloudy in Kampala at 23, highs of 27. Mostly cloudy conditions in Dar es Salaam, going to highs of 32. Johannesburg is sunny at 18. We'll see highs of 26 and highs of 33 in Lagos, where it's raining again at 27. It's mostly sunny in Kinshasa at 25, highs of 32. Beijing has a haze over the city, 6 degrees right now. The 7 will be the high and lows of -2. It still continues to be cloudy in Paris at 4, highs of 7 coming down to lows of 0 flat. Clear conditions in London at 3, highs of 7 and lows of 1. And it's -3 in New York, highs of 2 and down to lows of -3.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's 20 minutes past 9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We are talking about what we saw yesterday in Kabuchai, in Matungu, in London, in Kiamakama, in Kisii. Those by-elections and the kind of violence that we saw taking place there. As we were going to the break, City, you had a point.
The point I was trying to make is, you see, we seem to have been conditioned, with violence. It's in the movies people watch. You may think that the blood you see in the movies is just tomato paste, but or WWF, or I don't know how many W's there in wrestling. Yes. But those are stunt men and women who are highly paid. But the Goon Squad, we see, these are young people who are genuinely jobless. And they're paid peanuts and to risk their lives. Because that's what they do. They risk their lives. Some of them die in the process of doing this useless thing that they keep doing. And then against a backdrop of an IABC chairman, who I think, in my opinion, is a seasoned fence sitter. That job requires someone who can actually make firm decisions about things that are happening.
See, even to open your mouth. Just open your mouth even. Open your mouth. Look, nobody's even asking you to make a decision. Nobody's saying, open your mouth. At least start from somewhere and say, folks, what we're seeing here cannot continue. That is enough to start. Don't even make a decision and say cancel the election. Don't make a decision and say let's ask the executive to unleash GSU. Just open your mouth and say what we are seeing cannot happen. Mum's the word seems to be the order of the day. You're just quiet, hoping that things will evolve into some kind of peace and order.
We're hoping that,
because what you basically said, you've seen toddlers, you've seen your kids fighting, then you say, okay, let them kill each other. At the end of the day, then we'll figure it out.
There's a gentleman who we speak to from time to time. I think his name is Natembea. Okay? He's the regional commander.
For Rift Valley, yes.
For Rift Valley. The regional commander for the western part of the country.
Yes.
I would really like to know what instructions that they gave the people whom they have on the ground.
Yeah.
And it goes up to the boss, the police boss. What instructions did they give them? Because the people seem to be acting under instructions.
Some instructions somewhere.
Do this, don't do this. Lobby tear gas only when this has happened. But otherwise, just sit and watch. Because our police force are not known to be inert. They're not known to just sit and watch. They usually don't just sit and watch. And that was not just police. You actually saw, yes, regular police. You saw administration police. Of course, the chiefs were there. But by and large, they're fairly toothless. Now, the point I'm trying to make is this. if you have a narrative of acceptable violence being perpetrated now, as actioned and as seen with these by-elections, you have violence activated in speeches, in innuendos, in suggestions, in political meetings. So essentially we are sitting back and allowing a situation to ferment, as you were saying, where violence is accepted and violence is expected, so that essentially what you're saying is you're putting the country on a war footing.
Yep. Deliberately so.
On a war footing.
Because this is deliberate.
Of course it's deliberate. It can't be anything else.
Absolutely deliberate. And while this is happening, and as you're seeing this happening, we're having the other conversation about emanating from the handshake. Among the 9 points agenda for the handshake and the formation of the BBI task force is number 1, why do we experience electoral violence and how do we get electoral justice at all times to everybody who's participating in an election? So we're heading towards a referendum on BBI, and we've been told that swallow this pill and you'll not see these things happening
again.
The people who are championing BBI, Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula, Kalonzo Musyoka, Gideon Moi, the president, Raila Odinga, they are the candidates in these by-elections.
Have any of them even squeaked?
Not a peep, man.
Have they shown that leadership of saying, this is what we are trying to heal, and we've got to start now. It does not have to be that a law will be enacted and that is what will change. It has got to start now with people's attitudes. If the attitude of the president, of Raila, of Ruto, of Musalia Mudavadi has not changed, even if you pass that BBI with 100% vote, nothing will happen thereafter. We will still need to have a conversation again about, so why do we always have violence? I've said this many times. Our problem is not the laws our problem is the political class. Our problem is that they've gotten to a point where they believe this is their country and the rest of you are tenants.
Can you imagine?
In this country.
Yeah. Because if the law that you're talking about then is custodial, right? And it's supposed to guard and protect certain things, then you have institutions that are put in place to push that law. The IEBC, for example. You would assume, that would be the assumption, that they know what they're doing. Yeah? In terms of conducting an election. They know what they're doing. They know beforehand what needs to happen. Somebody sits there and serves in a position of authority over these folks and say, okay, by election in place, go out and get this done. But you still have people showing up at those areas, political leaders, political class, showing up at that point, coming to then ask the IEBC exactly what it is that they're doing and the manner in which they're running this election. Is that your job? Is that your job? The interference from the political class is what causes these problems. Kenyans are not inherently violent. I am sorry, but you cannot give me that explanation and say the reasons why we have bloody elections and things that happened like 2007 is because Kenyans hate each other.
No, they don't.
Or that Kenyans are prone to violence.
No,
I refuse to accept that. I refuse. What you do have is that you have political leaders who unfortunately are doing this nonsense, like bringing 2 million shillings to a polling center to try and bribe people to go in one direction or another. Those who go about and hire goons who are already at a disadvantaged place in society because they do not have their daily bread and butter. So you give them 200 bob and tell them to go and instigate violence tomorrow. But it is not something that is inherent. It is something that is orchestrated. And then you're telling people tomorrow that Kenyans are violent and that you're going to bring about a BBI, that one of the points is to stop this violence during elections. Whereas the people who are your lackeys are the ones who are instigating this thing. Let's look at what it is for what it is. Don't even go far. This referendum that people are going to go and vote. Watch and see what it's going to be. If this by-election
is anything to
go by. Watch and see.
There's an opportunity that should not be missed here. And that is to not just crack the whip, but to ensure that this sort of thing never really happens again. It's an opportunity that shouldn't be missed. People breaking the law blatantly, documented, for everyone to see. I would like to see what happens with these arrests. Because in all honesty, we didn't have an election, Eric, as you correctly put it. A mad election is no election.
Those people were just, held for a few hours and they were let go. When is the last time that you saw IEBC actually take someone to court, prosecute somebody because of electoral violence or because of breaking electoral rules, which are very clear? When did you last see something like that? In this particular case, shouldn't we be having something like charges before court by IEBC on people who are seen participating in election violence, in electoral malpractice? This is what we should be seeing. But now, oh no, IEBC is mum. I'm getting a comment here from one of our listeners. His name is Isa Hassan from Hurlingham. He says, IEBC is a toothless bulldog. Who has IEBC taken to court for electoral violence ever? And that's a very good question to ask. When did you last see IEBC take such action? Come on. And now you're even about to tell us who has won in Matungu. Who could have won in Matungu? Who could have won in Kabucha? Who could have won in London? What?
Eric, just think of the effects of that chaos and that violence. What it means is you're not really sure even what's happening.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going on.
No, you don't. You don't know whether ballot boxes are being stuffed, to of cases, to what degree they're being stuffed.
Yep.
You don't know whose voters are being prevented from actually coming in. You don't know what malpractice is taking place because you're focused on the chaos.
Yes. And you've taken away the referee. Frog marched the referee.
Out. So essentially, you're conducting your own elections.
Yeah. It's coming up to 9:30. Let's take a break, see what's happening on the roads, and then we'll take your calls. 0719-012-600. What comes to mind when you look at what happened in yesterday's by-elections? Number one. And number two, should IEBC even bother announcing results from those by-elections? This is what we'd like to hear from you. 0719-012-600.
Spice up your life.
Japan biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan?
Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da!
Japan?
Yes!
You will have to first learn Japanese.
No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable.
Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
Okay, still some on Thika Road today coming into the city. It's not as bad as it was earlier in the morning, but looking better now. Also on Mombasa Road, out towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout and then through to Huru Highway. This is where people might be shedding some tears today. It's going to take some time to get off of that one. Traffic is moving very, very slowly, but it's moving all the same. So we're out of a bumper-to-bumper situation on Kiambu Road as you then try to connect with Muthaiga Square. So it won't be too bad. Hopefully getting into a Friday that will be easy to maneuver. Talk to us through the day should you need to. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Okay.
Mornings done right.
Back to hear from you. 0719-012-600. Lydia in Nakuru is on the line. Good morning, Lydia.
Good morning. How are you people?
We are fine, thank you, Lydia.
I'm very happy to hear from you. You now.
Yes.
There were so many chaos in this country yesterday.
Yes.
In Nakuru, there were some people who were injured. And they are in the hospital until now. Now these elections we are going to elect people, yes. But you are elected, you are bringing chaos. Are we going to continue with this country in this way, or are we going to manage this country with a lot of conscious of what we are doing.
Right.
Now, I told you a long time ago, if we want this country to be healed, it is to respect each other and to be happy with each other. We should not fight because you want to be elected and you are not making it right.
That's true.
You just want to make chaos, and sisi wananchi tulichagua watu na tukasema tunataka amani katika nchi hii yetu. Now I'm asking myself, will we manage to elect people in 2022
with this kind of violence? Yeah, is it going to be possible? Really?
Yeah.
What would you like to see done after yesterday's violence, Lydia?
I want this country to change, and I want everybody to know that anyone who is elected, it is from God.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Lydia.
Uniting.
Asante sana. We are taking your calls this morning, 0719-012-600. Also, seeing what you're saying on social media. What are they saying?
Oh, quite some. Okay, so one of the, I think I can get this. Dalili ya mvua inakwanga na mawingu. That's what Nyabicha Samuel is saying. And surely what we witness is a clear indication that it will rain come 2022. Our security agencies are divided, same as our leaders, and tribal utterances are taking root. Expect worse in 2022. Victor says, 2022 is going to be a tough year and we don't need a prophet to tell us. It'll be a battle of egos between politics just like yesterday. If the stakes were high for them in these small elections, it means the stakes are going to be higher in 2022. More deaths, more injury, more property destruction. Gee. Okay. So Caleb Sudi is asking, and how powerful is this Mr. Ichesa? Is he above the law?
Does he know the law?
Does he know the law? You cannot sell us BBI and still be the ones perpetrating violence. You're also right to say that Kenyans are not violent and it's not the political class that ignite it. I'm still waiting for entertainment from parties who have chosen to run. That's what London says. I don't want an overflow information at the end when it comes to choosing which president I want. The violence in elections show we don't respect the referee, says Shurage. And I agree. We need to say no to a by-election and happened, and we don't respect the institutions and processes. Period.
Go to the phone lines. Dennis in Ruiru. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today, Dennis?
I'm fine.
Yes, talk to us.
Okay, for me, you know, when you cook pilau, there is aroma.
Yes.
So from what you can see from the different places in Kenya where election are taking place, it shows up the aroma starting like cooking. And honestly speaking, our leaders are up to something, which is good for we as citizens.
There's aroma. This is an indication of something. Dennis, thank you very much. Your line is not very clear. Let's hear from Karuri in Nairobi. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good morning.
I'm very fine.
Good.
Now, yesterday was something that I think we should not have a repeat of anytime soon.
Yep.
But unfortunately, knowing our leaders, I think especially in this coming referendum that is coming, I think we're just going to see a repeat of the same, just in a larger scale.
They'll give us an encore.
And now 2022 is now, I don't even think any one of us wants to think of how it's going to be. But the worst part is, as you guys had raised before, is that no one is speaking about it. Like everyone is calm. It's like nothing happened yesterday. Results have been announced. The winners are jubilating all over. And unfortunately, that's the sad part. But that's the country we live in. And it's like we should just accept it now.
And yet we cannot.
No, I see, we actually refuse to accept it. Because we know exactly where this leads us. We know this particular path is the one path that we do not want this country to go to. We've seen what happens with it, and this one, if we're looking at this as a precursor to what's going to happen, it portends something infinitely worse, something that we've never ever seen before.
City.
Yes.
Who is going to stop it?
Well,
You and I.
as for us, for one, we are certainly not going to sit back and just let it happen.
We can speak about it as much as we want, but as long as the leaders don't see a problem with it, and they seem to be riding on it, because it's, as you had said before, it's like this is a hotly contested election. That's what they want to portray. It was so tough to call, people even fought and we emerged victorious.
But let me just mention one thing to you. When you talk of political leaders, that leadership that you keep speaking about does not exist unless we endorse them and we accept them as our leaders.
And we have.
Precisely. Now, if you ask what we're doing, we are refusing. We're saying no.
We've reached the end.
We maybe just three of us, but we're saying no. These aren't our leaders. They may be leading other people, but their leadership is not something we want to follow.
Okay, let's hope it works.
Let's see how it goes. Thank you, Karori. Mike in Kisumu, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Kisumu gaoyaure.
Oyaure, idenade.
Adi maberi, sionade.
Achio maberi kabisa.
Indu oko.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, my sister.
Good morning, my brother.
How are you this morning?
I am very well, thank you.
Yes, I was not surprised about what happened in this by-election. Because currently we are having a system that is very broken. And these are the issues we've been having all along. Even if you check the issue of BBI, it was brought about that no other Kenyan should die because of election.
Yep.
But it seems failing even before it kicks off.
Yep.
Because during these times of the BBI campaign, we would have seen the difference. They would have set those precedents by this by-election.
Yes.
But they have failed, which means BBI might be a failed thing before even it starts. So basically, our leaders are always greedy. They think about themselves. Because personally, from growing up till the age I've come to live, there is no day I've seen a leader doing something for the common mwananchi. They always think about they themselves.
It's them, it's about them.
It's them and it's about them and them alone.
Yeah.
Mwananchi can go to hell for what they care. So until we also learn, because there's a quote that says if an idiot is elected as a leader, then the people feel very well represented.
Yeah.
Meaning the people also are idiots.
Yes.
And that is what we're portraying as Kenyans. Like, for example, what happened? We are calm about it. We don't want to come out and shun these bad things that are happening.
Why?
We don't want to be vocal about it.
Why?
I don't know why. When that is the real thing that we should be doing, so that we tell these leaders that we are tired of this
nonsense
fracas that you're causing.
But let me ask, are we really tired of it?
Personally, I am tired of it, and I've talked a lot about it.
Yeah. We need more and more people like you, Mike.
We need more and more people to come and shun these chaos.
Yep, that's true. Thank you very much,
the
Mike.
youth that are being used in a very wrong way.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes, thank you.
Yegon.
Yes, good morning, Eric.
Good morning.
Du and City Muka.
Yes,
good morning, sir. How are you?
Niko salama sana.
Asante.
What happened yesterday shows that we still have a problem with IEBC. People don't trust the process of IEBC. People don't have no credibility about the results from IEBC.
Yep.
That is why you find leaders from outside. For example, you find a leader from Langata, Nixon, Korir, these other guys going all the way to Matungu. You find Kina Gladys Wanga all the way from Upper Bay to Matungu. So this shows you that these people have no trust with the IPC. And what we should be doing is amending the IPC. We need reforms so that we can give people the real leaders they want. There is no way you can find somebody who is not a resident of Matungu, is not a voter of Matungu, taking disturbance to the people of Matungu. They are not giving a peaceful time for the people of Matungu and Kapujai to elect their leaders they want. Intimidation from outside. So I think reform should be bring in from IPC, whereby if you are not a voter of within the area, you should not go there. Because if you say I'm a party agent of UDA, for you to be a party agent of UDA, you must be a voter of that by-election. So Ejesa was not from Matungu, and he's saying that is the agent.
He's the agent.
In fact, if I could encourage the deep state to punish these people.
You would encourage the deep state?
Yes, because you find the likes of Ginajerarge bringing the trouble. You know, when you want to elect somebody and then you are being disturbed, and this is your leader, the future of your people. In fact, the court should grant the prosecution another 14 days for that guy to still stay in there.
Stay in there. Thank you, Yegon.
Thanks, Yegon.
Anthony in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Very well.
How is the situation going?
Iko salama kabisa.
Hata Mombasa tuko chonjo, joto mingi.
Ehe.
Hata ingawa Udi jana alituambia kutanyesha na kukunyesha. We had a dry day.
Kulinyesha ile pande ingine ya Mombasa.
Let me hope so. Yeah, so pursuant to what the discussion you had yesterday, whereby there was a discussion to the fact that these elections look like they are national.
Yeah.
It's a national thing. That's why you see all the heavyweights going there. And this fish rots from the head. We have seen the executive disregard roles. And it has come down to Mwananchi. And it reaches a point, and it is a very, very dangerous point, where the Mwananchi loses hope and decides to act upon himself the way he wants. When the executive leads by example, and the common Mwananchi feels that he is being oppressed, I think that is when we start seeing things we saw yesterday. And for your information, these things have been happening. They have been there.
Yep, they've been seen.
It's only that now all the media was concentrated in those areas. So in almost every polling station, there was someone recording and reporting.
Yep.
But when it is national, they cannot cover all the polling stations.
Yep.
These things happen. It's only that they are not reported. And it is a very, very sad thing to see that we are being retrogressive instead of going forward. And that is why I say that I've always said BBI is not there to solve this problem. BBI has its own agenda. This problem can be solved from the IBC point of view.
Yeah.
When people fight, it is because the IBC have given the wrong results, or they feel the IBC is not fair to us or to others. That is when people fight. If we have a credible IBC, these things will not happen.
They'll be sorted. Thank you,
And
Anthony.
the executive should lead by example.
Asante
He
sana.
should, and they should respect the laws of Kenya. Then we, the Mwananchi, we will also follow the laws.
Thank you, Anthony. Matthew in Nakuru, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm a very, very disappointed person.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I would agree with what a previous caller said. Why would someone come from another county to come call shots in Nakuru, London County, London Ward? You know, this it's very, very unfortunate. People talk of building bridges. I actually would say this is actually burning bridges, because at no point have I seen anything that these guys are proposing on the BBI being implemented. You're talking of electoral justice. Was there any justice yesterday?
None.
You know, I saw a very, very sad and unfortunate video of a lady being flogged much. That was very, very painful. Surely. Then you expect that, actually in 2007, this is how all this came up. Watu warushiane maneno. The leaders that we expect would shun such nonsense are very, very quiet. We've not had any of our leaders shunning that the violence and the occurrences of yesterday. No one has actually spoken.
Yeah.
So it is pressure boiling up.
Yeah.
Then you expect that things are going to be smooth in 2022. No. It's a seed that we are planting right now that is going to have very, very deadly repercussions in 2022.
Yeah, and we can all see that.
Actually, I stopped blaming politicians. I actually blame us, the electorate, because we see that this is nonsense going on and we tolerate it.
And we still let it happen.
If everyone steps aside, watu wakai waseme haya, mnataka kupigana, piganeni, mkimaliza kupigana, we will vote. This nonsense will not go on.
Yep.
But the electorate watalipo shilingi 200 to cause such nonsense.
Yep.
We know that it's wrong, but we still condone it.
I agree with you. Bigger problem is
but at the end
us.
of it all, we are the problems at the election.
Thank you very much, Matthew.
You're most welcome.
11 minutes to 10, time for a break. We want to take your calls, 0719-012-600. What happened yesterday in Kabuchai, in Matungu, in the other by-elections in Kiamokama, in London Ward? What was that? Was that an election, really? And what does it indicate for coming days? Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Japan, biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan? Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da! Japan? Yes! You will have to first learn Japanese. No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable. Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Okay, so it's 9 to 10. And what you're hearing here in the background is basically live from Matungu. The IEBC is announcing the results of a by-election.
And the IEBC is helping normalize electoral violence and electoral anomalies.
The returning officer has started by talking about, the incidences of violence and incidences of intimidation of electoral officials yesterday, incidences of harassing electoral officials, saying that we cannot really allow that to happen. It will not be good. Action will be taken on that. Now with that, I wish to declare the results of yesterday's election. What on earth is that?
It's like it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter. All of that. So, when you say you're essentially by this, what's happening is that they're normalizing,
violence,
election violence. They're normalizing nonsense.
Yes, they have.
Yes, as they say that these things will happen.
Sexually assaulted.
Yeah, they say these things will happen, but essentially what you're telling Kenyans is, it's all right. How will you be able to say that if something worse happens in will they? Okay, actually, that's an interesting question. Even as I'm trying to pose it to myself, would they actually then be able to say if something really went terrible in 2022 and say, now at this point, this is bad, whereby once you saw the start of it, you didn't do anything. Would they be justified? Would anybody be justified in 2022 or even during a referendum to say, okay, you know what, things are bad, actually, this cannot go on? when you saw it taking root, you did nothing. You said nothing. Would you be justified to
Does
talk
the
about it
IBC
later?
have a code of electoral ethics where it is understood and their workers understand that if things get to a certain point, then we simply stop. Yes, this is what you do. These are the
Standard
steps you
operating
take.
procedures.
Yes.
If this happens, do this.
If this happens, do this.
If ballots are late or voting materials are late,
This
they
would-
already know what to do.
They know. Have you ever seen in any election in this country where electoral officials are treated the way we've seen it here? I have never seen
No,
it.
not like we saw yesterday.
I've never.
Horrible.
People have misbehaved, but electoral officials never touched. You don't. They are talked to. Some are insulted.
Some are shouted at,
That-
this kind
it's
of
as far as
thing.
it goes. This one.
Some are threatened.
Evicting them from get out. Watoke.
As who? Nobody actually asked that question. On what authority are you evicting an election official from a
They are the
polling
authorities
center?
of that process, actually.
Yeah. They actually are the ones who are supposed to be calling the shots. So on what authority do you stand to remove an official from an electoral process? Where does that even come from? Who gives that authority?
If you want to have another clear understanding of impunity, there you have it. Where
this is nonsense.
There
Yeah,
are people
somebody
who
has
decided to take the law into their own hands.
This is absolute nonsense. You basically just cannot. So ANC candidate has been declared the winner in yesterday's by-election in Matungu constituency, beating David Were of ODM. The winner is Nabulindo. He has won. He has been declared officially the winner of a sham election. If you look at all the results, and they were indicating that there was at least 54-point-something% voter turnout yesterday. But what do you mean? Was it free? Was it fair?
Well, people are going to go to court, that is for sure. And then let's see how that comes about.
Peter Oscar Nabulindo has been declared the winner of that by-election. He was the ANC candidate. That whole story. So therefore, Musalia Mudavadi has, asserted his supremacy. The person who passed away, the former MP, was also an ANC member. So basically, this seat has not been wrestled away from Musalia. It's still. The electoral officials that you're seeing there were the ones that we were seeing on video clips yesterday. Being assaulted. Highly intimidated, completely harassed. You can imagine these people have not slept for many hours. They had not slept before polls opened as we were preparing. They have not slept throughout the day. They have not slept throughout the night as they were counting. And now here they are, 10 a.m., they are being made to announce a winner. And they know very well what they have gone through. And you, as a Wafula Chebukati sitting in Nairobi, you declare election, Buan. This is nonsense. I'm done.
No, there's not.
I'm done.
Sorry.
There's absolutely no reason at all for the IEBC to be announcing a winner. You're asking, do they have a code of conduct? I'm sure they
Of
have
course, there must be.
They have an
There
SOP.
must be.
There is a law that talks about what happens in an election. We are talking about reforming the IEBC, and every time politicians talk about reforming IEBC is how they participate in choosing the leader of the IEBC.
Exactly.
That is not the problem.
An individual over whom they are going to be able to wield some kind of influence is what they really look for. Let's
And
just
that's
call
the
it as
reason
it
why,
is.
like Yegon is saying, when he says that IEBC has lost credibility, one of the things, and I strongly believe in this, one of the things that makes people feel like IEBC has lost credibility is because political leaders feel that IEBC officials owe them for the position they hold. So because we are the ones who pushed for you to be elected, therefore you owe us. And because we know that your name was proposed by that political wing, we see you as a member of that political side. And we can therefore come because we are fighting not with you, but with the person who appointed you, who is our political competitor. That's why we're coming to harass you. You are nobody. When I'm slapping you, I'm not slapping you. I'm slapping
the process.
the other person. I'm assuming that I'm slapping Raila, or I'm slapping Uhuru, or I'm slapping
I'm
Ruto.
showing you.
It is not you that I'm slapping. When I'm telling you, get out of here, I'm basically telling that person to get out of here. That's why I say, keep politicians completely away from choosing IEBC officials. Players cannot decide who's going to be a referee. City. You speak.
Today's proverb, the one nearest to the enemy is the leader. Yesterday's proverb, the leader in the community without a pot belly is stingy.
Mm-hmm.
The day before, rulers are like hills. When darkness falls, they all speak alike.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the officials that we see before us here are doing what they've been told to do. But if we're talking about IEBC, it clearly lacks leadership. There are people at the helm, and they claim to be leaders. They are commissioners. You even have a chairman. But it clearly lacks leadership.
Mm.
And if this is what we have going into election next year, my goodness gracious me, we are in trouble. We are in trouble.
Nice,
we are in
big
serious,
trouble.
serious trouble.
Big trouble.
Yes.
IBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati and the other commissioners let down their officials on the ground. They basically sent them to a pack of wolves and they were devoured. And the officials have said nothing about them. Thank you for tuning into the Situation Room today. We want to appreciate all the support that you give us, all the calls, and all the feedback that you give us. Join us again from next week, Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Have a lovely weekend. But say no. Say no to this violence. Say no to this behavior by our political leaders. Say no to this behavior by our state organs. The interior security should have done something. Police officers should have done something. Political parties should have done something. IEBC should have done something. Now that they've done nothing about it, it's upon us to